All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 7th Walla Municipal Advisory Council meeting. We'll have our call to order. Mr. Secretary, would you do the roll?
Of course. Melissa Finley. Dan Lewis.
Here.
Dave Schwag, here. Uncover the microphone here. Henry Mayer. Here. Don Hess. Hi, here. Kevin Evans.
Here.
Zachary Hayward.
Here.
Robert Youngling.
Here.
We're all on board, Kevin.
All right. Thank you for everyone coming out. We do have some guests both in Zoom and in the audience. Our next part of the agenda is to approve our agenda for this evening. Are there any additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Dave?
I have some adjustments.
Okay.
To correspondence under the first bullet having to do with CAL FIRE correspondence, I would add that we received notice of HCP work on the 29th of February, so I can add that to the list.
Okay.
Also, in other correspondence I received from the Mendocino County Department of Building and Planning, a public hearing notice of pending action for standard coastal development permit CDP 2023-0013. This is the CDP for Caltrans curve updates that we've talked about previously. There's two curves north of here where they're going to be doing. Iverson? Yes, south of Iverson. So that's again a hearing notice. It's moving forward. Also, I need to add a correspondence for me today. Two members of GMAC distributing a PowerPoint presentation having to do with CDP referral later on an agenda. That's it.
Okay, with those additions to our agenda, are there any others?
I have
Zach?
one very small thing. My name's spelled with an H. That's all. Just in case.
Where did we get it wrong?
It's under the.
Under correspondence. ZACH.
CH. I will correct that. One more question. Zach, is your full name Zachary or Zachary?
It's Zachary. Yeah.
AA, two A's?
ZACHARY.
Great, thank you. I'll correct this. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, with those changes, are there any others? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I move we accept the agenda.
Moved by Don. Do we have a second? Second by Henry. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, number 3, approval of minutes. We did have a carryover from the January 4th minutes, and I think that was an item that council member Mayer had some questions on. So, Henry, are there any discussion on that on those minutes?
I mean, again, I sort of particularly care about any one set of minutes, but I think we need to have a bigger discussion about what we want the minutes to be, which I think we've got under number 8.2 new business. So I'm happy to defer to them.
Okay. Are there any changes into the January 4th, 2024 minutes? If not, I'll
One slight little item.
okay.
I've reviewed all the minutes this past week and, under 8 council members, 8 council matters, 8C. It regards me, that's why I'm so particular about it, but it says, GCAP committee, Youngling reported no committee meetings or progress in December and still working on potential conflict issue. If that could be added, the potential, because then it ties in with.
Okay.
It's been potential everywhere else, and it wasn't mentioned here.
Robert, just for since I'm in the slow group, help me out one more time. What do we need to change?
Page 2 of 3 on the January meeting minutes, 8C.
Second line.
January 4, 8C.
HC, second line. between on and conflict, insert the word potential.
Potential conflict issue, right there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other, Melissa?
I would like to point out something that I read several weeks ago that I didn't bring up because we had so many other things going on. But according to Robert's Rules of Order, minutes do not need to contain the person who seconded the motion. All it needs to contain is the person who made the motion.
Okay,
That would help streamline minutes, not minutes, yeah, minutes.
okay.
Yeah, let's discuss that, I think, in April.
Yeah, we
too.
can discuss that later when we're talking about minutes. So under January 4th, we have a couple, we have, the word inserted under 8C, potential. Any other? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Move to accept.
Motion by Dan, do we have a second? Second by Robert. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And that's for both minutes, January 4, February 1.
No, that was just January 4. Now we'll go on to February 1. Okay, we have the minutes that Dave sent out for the February 1st meeting. Do we have any corrections or additions, subtractions?
Have a couple suggestions, yeah.
Okay,
Under economic development, that's page 3 of 4, 9.7.
okay,
I'm still working with the two visitor, Sonoma County Tourism and Mendocino County. But that should say Redwood Coast Visitor Center versus the Chamber of Commerce, because I haven't even started on that part yet. But it's just trying to get a visitor center open, so it should say, instead of Walla Chamber of Commerce, Redwood Coast Visitor Center,
okay.
time being.
Redwood Coast Visitor Center, okay?
And would that replace, so is that, does that replace Chamber of Commerce or Walla Chamber of Commerce?
It replaces Walla Chamber of Commerce,
Great.
because it's always called the Redwood Coast Chamber of Commerce.
Great.
So that whole verbiage, that Walla Chamber of Commerce should be removed, and let's just put in the Redwood Coast Visitor Center for now.
Okay, duly noted, thank you.
I'm gonna ask you to transmit that to me in writing, if you don't mind.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I don't have a copy of that in front of me. It's just gonna be easier for me to make the edit. I'm happy to do it.
Send it to Dave, okay.
Okay, with the change to item 9.7, changing Walla Chamber of Commerce to Redwood Coast Visitor Center, are there any other changes? You have another one?
I had a question on the closed session.
Okay.
Closed session report.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about, previously GCAP standing committee. I don't remember recall it being a standing committee.
No, it's an ad hoc committee.
That would be that first bullet, under closed session report, that second line. Previously GCAP standing committee. Previously GCAP. ad
Right,
hoc- ad hoc committee.
right, it is a ad hoc committee.
Well spotted.
Okay,
And then, the only other thing was. Oh, going back to number 9.1, should it say previously GCAP ad hoc committee there, Dave?
I trust your
I
sharp
mean,
eyes.
just.
I'm okay with, that's no big deal. Let's do it.
okay,
Little
nine,
items.
9 point, what's the number, Rob?
9.1, the second bullet point,
Caltrans,
just to be consistent, previously GCAP ad hoc committee.
oh, okay. Okay, we will add ad hoc.
And I'm gonna ask one more time that you send it to me in
Send
an
those
email.
to you.
Thanks
Okay.
very much.
I mean, I would have sent it to you earlier, but I didn't.
No worries, this is
doing
fine.
this.
Okay,
And there was one last thing that, where would that be? Under old business, discussion or action. The council, it would actually be the top of page 2. The council discussed bylaw committee revisions to sections 5.10 and 5.11. And committee refusal to revise section 7.01 required majority to allow by, that word refusal. What is the committee? I mean, reluctance is what I thought might be a nicer word.
We considered it and we discarded it, period.
We had a reluctance, I thought,
We discussed it and we discarded it. There needs to be no more said.
anyway, that's just a suggestion. I mean, it just seemed like we refused, we considered it, whatever you just said, Melissa. I mean,
We considered it, we.
well, it went through a procedure, then it went back to the committee. The committee brought forward the latest, suggestions after we all had that suggested, straw poll. Anyway, I don't want to belabor it again, but I just thought that was kind of a harsh word.
It's
On,
harsh and judgmental.
on a similar point, again, I don't particularly want to belabor it, but, I had a similar reaction that I, didn't think was all that important for as directed by majority of council, which is that I would prefer suggested or requested, since there was no formal motion of direction, but
Yeah.
it's not, I don't know how important it is. Yeah, so.
Okay, so then I'm looking at the council's pleasure. Do you want to remove the word completely
Yeah.
or put in reluctantly? What's the
I was
council's
gonna
pleasure?
suggest reluctance.
Okay,
The committee considered it and rejected it. Period, that's all that needs to be said. The belaboring and making it unnecessary.
okay, because we've already taken action on this, in regards to the bylaws and bylaws submittal. I'm gonna make a recommendation that we remove the word refusal and not insert anything else, just have it, and committee to revise section 701 required majority to allow bylaws. Resident, so remove the word refusal. Is the council's pleasure okay with that?
Okay.
I disagree.
Okay. With that recommended change, do we have a motion to accept the minutes as prepared? We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the February 1st, 2024 meeting minutes as amended.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Because there seems, we have a couple differing opinions, we'll take a roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Dan?
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. Dave?
No.
Henry?
I,
Don?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Kevin? Aye. Passes 6-1. Okay, correspondence,
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I had one more question. Did we ever deal with the special meeting summary minutes from the special meeting we had?
we did at the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Did we? Okay. Where would those be reflected in,
That would be reflected in the February 1st minutes.
well, I didn't notice it in there, special meeting?
Oh, February,
it says approving November 2nd, December 7th, and January 4th. So nothing about the later in December special meeting.
The January 23rd special meeting we had here, remember? I don't remember.
discussing the bylaws?
Yeah. There were minutes that got, or rather on the website, I believe.
I think we dealt with those at the last meeting.
So it just have to be put in the minutes. somewhere, I
Okay.
guess, huh?
We will add them to our April meeting then.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? We were supposed to carry 123 minutes to here. Okay, I'll bring them back.
Okay. Add 123 minutes. Okay,
So, yeah, so I guess, I can't. Oh, yeah, I guess I'll make a motion to reconsider, the, approval of those minutes. So that we can, since we just approved them without the January 24th or whatever, January, whatever that was. We just approved the February 1
right?
minutes without noting that we'd approved those minutes. So
Okay.
I'd like to motion to reconsider that action. Then we can amend.
So
it.
reconsider the February 1st action.
Exactly. So motion to reconsider that.
Can we have a motion to reconsider the February 1st minutes to add the for January 1st, 23 special meeting minutes? We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second by Robert. We'll take a roll call. Melissa?
Quick question before you launch. Does everyone have the minutes from 1/23?
Are we talking about the minutes?
Wait, didn't we already approve those minutes?
No.
No.
Oh, we did. Oh, then
We didn't post them.
Yeah, this was a mistake.
I withdraw that. Or I guess it's too late.
So I will add,
We got this.
Yeah, we gotta take.
for correction purposes, I will add minutes for 1/23. We'll consider them in April.
Okay, sorry. I thought we had already done them in that meeting.
Didn't
Okay,
happen. It was-
Melissa?
My apologies.
About the minutes for the closed meeting?
No. We're
Special
talking,
meeting.
we're talking about the special meeting we had to go over the bylaws.
Yeah. Sorry, we can just vote this down. I was confused.
No
Okay.
worries.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye to accept the minutes of February 1st.
Wait, I would be to reconsider.
Okay, you made a motion.
I move to reconsider. We can just,
How about if we just vote it down?
yeah,
And-
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep. that's-
so that's why I'm asking. If,
Yeah.
how many are in favor? If nobody votes in favor, then it doesn't pass and we move on.
Exactly.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the February 1st minutes, signify by saying aye.
Of reconsidering them. The motion was to reconsider.
Who
So
seconded?
that's what we have to,
Okay, we have a motion to reconsider the minutes of February 1st.
Did we have a second?
We did.
We do have a second
Who
from
is it?
Robert. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have one aye opposed.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so we have one yes and 6 no.
Wasn't there.
This is my own fault for confusion. Anyway, we're good. We're good.
Are we good?
You're
Okay,
welcome.
I want to
Apologies.
make sure before we move on. Okay, on correspondence, any that need to be presented, or how do we wish to do that?
Can you mention that again, the correspondence on the, north of AmeriGas there, David? What was going on there?
Sure. We received from Planning and Building a public hearing notice of pending action of a standard coastal development permit. And so that means that the Caltrans proposal to do work on those two curves that you and I looked at, and that the GMAC considered and rendered recommendation, is moving forward now to a decision, CDP decision. I have a packet, if anybody wants to look at it, that I received at the post box. That's what that is.
But it wasn't online. I didn't see it online yet.
It's not a referral, it's actual published notice that the hearing will occur, and it has a staff report in it if you're interested.
Yep, would be good.
Any other questions about correspondence? Nope.
Hearing none? Okay, move on. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items, a maximum of 3 minutes is reserved for members of the public to address the Walla Municipal Advisory Council on items not listed on the agenda. And the total time for public input on a particular issue is limited to 20 minutes. The council prohibited from discussing or acting on matters not on the agenda, but may briefly respond or ask a question for clarification. Do we have any people in the audience that are watching our meeting as opposed to the State of the Union? Dave?
I received an email from Julie Bauer, who would like me to read a comment into the record on her behalf, if there's
Okay.
time for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Proceed. Hi, Dave. Can I submit the following to you to read into the minutes during the public comment section of the meeting? I don't know if I'll be able to attend, and this was received from Julie Bauer on Friday, March 1st. Coast Youth Little League would like to thank Kevin Evans and GMAC for their efforts to get Bower Park back into optimum shape for our community. There is a long way to go. Right now, we are specifically appreciative that they coordinated with the county to delay park closure for tree work until after our baseball season has ended in June. Being able to use the Bower Park baseball diamond for practices allows us to offer the best experience for our 100+ players. Thank you again for your advocacy. Coth Youth Little League Board of Directors, Jamie Cook, Erica Westerstrom, Jessica Holguin, Tori Clark, Julie Bauer, Kyle Doherty, Monica Oropeza, Ross Woodward, and Josh Oropeza.
All right. I'd like to also give a shout out to our supervisor and the deputy CEO, Steve, I forgot Steve's last name. But anyway, for their diligent effort to make it happen that the tree contractor will delay the work on Bower Park until after the Little League season. So it's a good thing. The kids are going to be able to go back to their field and participate. And I thank the county staff and our supervisor for their support and quick action on that. Okay. Did we lose our sheriff?
No, he's still on there.
Still there.
Okay.
There he is.
Now we have our Mendocino County Sheriff and Code Enforcement Report. Michael, do you want to introduce the gentleman on the screen?
Well, on the screen, we have wonderful, the Sheriff Kendall sitting right next to me, and have Sheriff Sergeant Brandon Lee. He's one of our coastal sergeants over here on the coast as well.
Yeah, so let me just kind of jump into this real quick. Let me go over a real quick overview of some things going on in the county, and then I'll ask Deputy Jensen to throw out the stats for what we worked on, if that's acceptable. We've got a couple of things going on. I hope everybody is concerned about AT&T's drive to get the CPUC to have them relinquish their carrier of last resort. I don't think Mendocino County is ready for that right now. I've spoken with them about it. I've spoken with them on several occasions. And I just don't feel like, with all of the things that we've been dealing with in our county over the last decade, we're not ready to remove any of our platforms for communication. And I can tell you that the only thing that seems to work consistently during times of emergency are our local radio stations and our copper lines. And so I'm going to be continuing to push on that. I think that we're making some headway. Myself and several other Northern California sheriffs have had a lot of conversations with the CPUC, as well as Senator Dolly's office and Assemblyman Dolly's office. They're working hard with us right now. Now, we had a massive bunch of overdoses Friday afternoon at the county jail. And it was fentanyl. We lost one soul to it. We had 7 people overdose in about 4 minutes. And so it was all hands on deck. We're still continuing that investigation. But we are not getting our arms around the fentanyl issues here in the United States. I believe it was back, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, it was the 4th of July celebration around Point Arena where we had a fentanyl overdose that required Narcan immediately. We almost lost a soul there. And in Mendocino County, we're running right now over 50% of our accidental deaths are due to overdose. And so I'm going to be working very hard on a lot of this year, and a lot of it with our legislators, as well as some of our folks who are in office. We're going to do our best to get our arms around this, especially in Mendocino County. But what it's going to take is going to take enforcement, but it's also going to take education. We've got to have 50-50 parts on this. We had a terrible problem with DUIs when I was a young man. And it seemed like every weekend when I was working the jail, there would be 20 to 30 drunk drivers booked. Now, if we get 4 in a weekend, that's a pretty high number. We got ahead of that. We got our arms around it. And although we have to stay after it because it is still dangerous, it's just not like it was. Anyway, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And if I can get Deputy Michael Jensen to give us the stats, and our stats have been low because of this weather that we've been having, but we've still kind of been at a dead run because there have been a lot of calls for service that were weather related, road related, power lines down, things like that. You know, the fire up in Leggett due to a lightning strike and burned down the post office. These are all things that are taking us to different places, but the police calls for service have been down due to the weather.
Sure. Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
How would the change from AT&T being carrier of last resort affect the 911 service in this county?
Well, that's been one of the biggest heartaches for me is because, excuse me, we have such a huge portion of this county where cell service simply does not exist.
Right.
And we have a lot of our roads. I live on a road where my neighbors, a quarter mile away, they get good cell service, but then I'm down in the hole, I get zero cell service. And it's going to have a dramatic effect because all of a sudden we are not going to have the linemen and the people out here working on the lines in the fashion that we had in the past. And think about all of the houses who still have landlines, and I am one of them. The reason why I keep it is for 911 service and reverse 911 service. It's simply having a landline in your house means that when I put out a reverse 911, you're already signed up for it. If you have a cell phone, you have to sign up for it. And there's a lot of people who are getting up there in years. I remember I got my father a cell phone, my sister and I did. And he answered it when I called him. But one day he was telling me, hey, this thing doesn't work. I can't make outgoing calls. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Let me see it. And he opened it up. It was the old flip phone. And he said, look, there's no dial tone. Well, he didn't understand the technology and things like that during an emergency. It's not going to be helpful.
Thank you.
Michael.
All right, so what this past month, we had 29 calls for service that include initiated activities down here on the South Coast. In the area of Point Arena, there was 19 calls for service, 3 self-initiated investigations, 3 traffic stops.
Excuse me, Michael,
Yeah.
would you mind?
Yes.
Standing over near that microphone, that would be better, thank you.
We'll just restart here real fast so the recording can catch it. So there's a total of 29 calls for service that include self-initiated activities amongst deputies. In the area of Point Arena, we had 19 calls for service, 3 self-initiated investigations, 3 traffic stops, which yielded an arrest in each traffic stop to include DUI, firearms charges, and drug charges. 2 citizen assists, 2 suspicious circumstance and domestic disturbance calls in Point Arena, and 1 911 unknown call. In the area of Walla, there was 10 calls for service, 5 self-initiated investigations, multiple foot patrols, civil attempts, and a welfare check down here in Walla. So we have definitely seen a little bit of a dip, and we've also been, conducting maximum DUI enforcement as well down here on the South Coast. We did not too long ago have DUI crash over here on Pacific Woods. That person was arrested as well. A water main broke, and CHP came out here and helped us handle that as well. So, but other than that, we have some very nice weather this week. Try to enjoy it and still be safe driving around because trees are still falling, big branches are falling around as well. If anyone has any questions, I would be glad to answer.
Well, I have 2 comments. One, I don't know how often Sheriff or you deputies and Sergeant talk to the CHP, but if you happen to, tell them thank you, because just in the past 2 days, I've seen 3 people pulled over coming over the hill from Juniors down into by Kennedy Real Estate. So I would assume that they were probably going fast, and so I truly appreciate their presence because they are slowing traffic down, and we've got a lot of new businesses and a lot of young people crossing our streets. And yeah, so
I'll definitely make sure I echo your guys' appreciation for that as well. Definitely nice when they're able to assist us and utilize their in-car radars and stuff and be able to catch people.
And my other question, is that a new piece of equipment? Is that a body cam?
So our whole agency's been outfitted with body cameras.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely helps, you know, record events. That way, if we're gonna go to any sort of, you know, criminal trials for anything, and it helps us in the writing reports and everything. Not only that, it helps make community members feel safer as well. Yeah, during everything, knowing that we always have something recording everything, and, you know, it's definitely a wonderful piece of equipment that the sheriff's office has been able to procure and help the deputies and communities amongst Mendocino County.
When did you get those? When were they issued?
I think
I think officially we were all outfitted with them like in November.
Okay. Well, what a great.
We had a phase where we tested them on the coast, in the north and in central.
Mhm.
We had to do some beta testing to see how our servers and whatnot would be able to download them. And so we had about a month, or excuse me, I think about 60-day time period where we tested them, and they seemed to meet the needs. And so then we moved forward with them about 3 or 4 months ago.
Anyway, great. Any questions for our law enforcement from anyone? Sergeant, thank you.
Yes,
Michael,
thank you.
thank you.
very much.
Sheriff, thank you so much for joining us again. And
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
please,
you all.
please be safe, and yeah, if we can do anything to help you, let us know.
Well, I think daylight savings time is it coming or ending? I can't remember, but I'm going to look forward to doing my chores with a little bit of sunlight out there. I've been having to get home and do them with one of those headlamps on my head. And so I'm kind of looking forward to the next few weeks, having a little more sunshine.
Nice. All right.
You folks have a good evening. It was good talking to you.
You too.
Thank you,
Sheriff. Thank you.
Be safe, guys.
Thank you.
Well, it's nice to see that we're getting into the 21st century with, you know, the body cams and, you know, it's essential equipment. And it's nice to see that our deputies and our sergeant are getting this equipment.
Yeah, transparency is really important.
They can just stay here the whole meeting and record our meeting for us.
Yeah, exactly.
The sound quality wouldn't be as good as.
No,
Yeah.
of course. And then you'd have to smile into the camera, right? Okay, moving on to old business. 7.1, the Wallala Municipal Advisory Council bylaws update. We downsized our committee to 1.
Hello.
So if you would go ahead and start us on what we're, the procedure you want to do tonight?
Yeah, so as directed in the February 1st meeting, I transmitted to everybody the updated bylaws. Don put them on the website. We've got both the comparison and the clean draft.
Just want the clean draft on there.
Sure, yeah. So you know, we've discussed this at length. And I think really assuming it passes, I think the only thing we really need to do now is vote to approve. It's a 5-vote requirement, and to approve the existing bylaws. And then if we get it approved, then we can send them along to the county to make sure they give us the okay.
They have to get final approval, correct?
Whether they have to or not, was never made entirely clear. Christian Curtis said that was something that they wanted to look into. They never got back to us on it. Christian Curtis is now gone. I think if the county has complaints, it would behoove us to address those complaints. You know, whether it's a formal requirement or not, I don't really think matters.
Well, let me also piggyback what you're saying, because I did pull up what Christian Curtis sent us. And his comment was not only that it would probably be in our best interest to send it to county council for review, but they were going to look at it to see if the bylaws actually had to be approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Right, yeah.
So my thought would be that any action we do tonight, that it would be predicated on the approval county council and the review and possible adoption by the board of supervisors before these become our final bylaws.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say the Board of Supervisors is not going to feel like they need to vote on them. But I think that I was planning to word the motion as the activation of the new bylaws being contingent on the county having no objections or requests for delay.
They
might just put it on their consent calendar.
They might, yeah.
They might, yeah.
Or they might say it's your business, we don't care. I don't know.
Okay, so Henry's given the presentation. Any questions regarding our bylaws first? Dan?
Do we have an estimated time on when they will have a new county council?
They have one.
Oh, there is a new one in,
Yeah.
they have somebody in that seat now, okay,
Yeah.
great.
They do have one.
I'm gonna assume our bylaws will not be at the top of their high-end agenda.
Maybe not, but we know that our county supervisor was very helpful in making sure that our county council reviewed the bylaws in a timely manner for us, so
Good.
we will probably direct the secretary to not only send a copy to the county council, but also to our supervisor, apprising them that we are moving forward on the adoption of new bylaws.
Sounds right.
Are there any questions for Henry? Seeing none, we have
Inviting
a motion,
No, are you inviting discussion or questions?
discussion.
Okay, great. The bylaws as they are in front of us still contain a 2/3 majority in section 7.01 for changing the bylaws. I've spoken at length regarding that, what I feel is unwarranted and mistaken. We've been furnished with an ironic example of the control of the tyranny in the behavior of the bylaws committee, which chose for itself, after getting very clear direction from the majority of the council, to present a draft of a majority vote requirement, which could have been brought back to the council and discussed and changed again, but this minority of the council decided on its own, regardless of its rationalizations, to overrule a majority vote or a clear indication from majority of the members present on the 23rd of January to do something different. That's what happens when a minority rules. When there is tyranny of the minority, that means that a majority, which is common in democratic process, doesn't get to a reliable process for affecting change. I view the current draft of 701 as a poison pill. Lots and lots of stuff happened. We were able to cover a lot of work, but for whatever reason, and I'm sad to see it still, a minority of this council insists on tyranny of the minority in changing the bylaws. I'm not done yet, but I will end. So I'm going to move that we adopt the bylaws. I'm going to bifurcate motion on the bylaws themselves and then direction to secretary, because I think there's utility there. I'm going to move that we adopt the bylaws with the exception section 701 requirement of a 2/3 majority, but that it be a simple majority, an affirmative vote of a majority of the council of members under 702 to amend the bylaws.
Okay, we have,
Point of clarification, a majority voted to approve these bylaws. You say it's a minority to do it, but it was a majority vote.
A minority decided to overrule guidance from the majority of the members in a special work session to do what it decided to do.
I'm just saying,
Instead of bringing back,
you present it as a tyranny of the minority, of a minority insisting on this language, but I'm just saying it was a majority that voted in favor of this language most recently. Just to clarify, that it was a majority vote in favor of this language.
fine,
The committee.
but the committee.
No, a majority vote of the whole council at our last meeting voted to approve this language. Four
The
votes,
last meeting,
four
the
votes to
majority-
2
hang on,
in
Melissa.
favor of this language as written right now.
Mhm.
Just to be clear, it was not a minority that voted on this most recently. The draft that we have before us was approved and directed to be sent out by a majority of this council. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, Melissa?
And the majority of this council at the last meeting said, okay, these are the finalized, this is the finalized draft. At the next meeting, we will vote on it as is. We didn't say we were going to discuss it. It said we were going to vote on it as is. The discussions took place last month.
Well,
The time to vote is now.
Every item that we have on our agenda is open for discussion, not only by the council, but by the public as well. So that's inaccurate that there's any action that we could take without council discussion or public comments. So,
But that's not what we voted on last meeting.
but as you stated regarding Robert's Rules of Order, that is a procedure on dealing with any action on our agenda.
But
So
we
you're aware of that, I know.
We made the vote to say, at the next meeting, we will vote, not discuss, we will vote.
And that's what we're doing right now. We brought it up. We now have a motion on the table.
Point of order, I think that motion is out of order. We can't approve anything but the bylaws as posted on the website 14 days ahead of time. We can't amend them and pass them in this meeting. We could,
If
amend them.
if the motion passes, if we have a motion and second, if the motion passes, then we do not move forward with the approval of the minutes, correct?
Well, he moved to approve with an amendment, and I'm saying we can't do that.
Understood.
Okay,
I'll acknowledge that and
Okay.
change, and move to change my motion
Great.
accordingly. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah, no problem.
so if you could restate that then.
Sure. I move that we accept the content of the bylaw update with the exception of the requirement in section 701 for a 2/3 majority, and that we bring the entire bylaws back with a simple majority in section 701.
You're
And
still
I-
trying to change what we did
Yeah.
last.
Hey,
meeting.
Melissa, please. Thank you.
Sorry, one more point of order. Can I suggest a slight adjustment to
Please
that?
do.
I would say the motion could be to direct the bylaws committee to update to update the draft such that it is a simple majority and return that draft to Don to put on the website and bring back for a vote in the next meeting.
So moved. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's perfect.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, we don't have,
Could we have a restatement of what the actual motion on the floor is?
Okay.
Okay, let me look at it. Let's see if I get it right.
okay,
Please clarify.
I move that we accept the updated bylaws with the sole exception of section 7.01 that requires a 2/3 majority vote of the council to amend the bylaws, and instead bring back for council consideration at the next board meeting section 701 that requires a majority of the council to amend the bylaws, and that we direct the update committee, now Councilmember Mayor, to affect that change and bring it back to us for consideration at the next council meeting.
I understand what you just said.
Thank you. I got it right.
okay.
As a point of order based on what I think I understand is going on. I think what we would need to do is vote down this draft. Request it be resubmitted in a changed form and then vote on the entire draft rather than saying, we're gonna change this little part. I think that is editing rather than approving or disapproving or non-approving of the draft that we have in front of us.
Okay, Melissa?
I'd like to make a motion that we vote
Wait.
on the draft as is.
We-
Will it-
Wait,
We
sorry.
already have a motion.
Sorry, we've already got one motion on the floor right now.
But it has not received a second.
Absolutely, and
So
that's,
it
that's,
dies.
that's what, well,
If it
that's
does
what
not
I'm,
receive a
that's
second,
what
it
I'm
dies.
asking for. Thank you. Okay, is there a second on the motion? Hearing none, the motion dies. It is now open for a new motion or action.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote on the draft
As presented.
as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Sorry, point of order, just, when we say vote on, I don't think that makes really clear what the actual action.
The vote
I think,
on,
You mean approve?
Can I suggest a rephrasal?
okay,
That, the motion be, to, approve the bylaws as written, to take effect, only if county council does not have any objection, or request for delay, or in the case that it is approved by the county.
I'll second that motion.
All right, okay, so Henry, you're moving?
Yes, yeah.
are there any questions with Henry's motion? We have a motion by Melissa. Do we have a second?
I second it. No,
I guess I made the motion.
he made the motion.
Yep, sounds like Melissa second, Henry moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Henry, a second by Melissa. Any other discussion?
Just one clarification, this is a motion that does require 5 votes.
Correct. Okay, we will take, Don, sorry, I passed you.
Just to make sure we're absolutely clear, this is a motion to approve the draft as written.
With 2/3.
Of course, it has to pass by 2/3, but the motion is to approve the draft.
No, with the 2/3
Yeah, as written,
as
Yeah.
written.
draft
Correct.
as written. Subject to presumably approval by
Review
the
by,
county council and or
Board
the board of
Yeah.
Okay,
okay, we have a motion and second on the table. We will take a roll call vote.
Finley,
Aye.
Lewis,
No.
Mayor,
Aye?
Hess,
Hess,
aye.
Robert,
Aye.
Evans, no. So it fails. May I offer a
Oh,
suggestion?
sorry, wait, I don't think you voted yet.
no,
Yeah, I figured.
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
Did
Right around.
I was-
Did I
I was-
pass you? Sorry.
No, I passed me, I was calling first. but-
Okay,
Yeah.
may I offer a subsequent motion? That the motion be to send this draft to county council for review and comment. And upon their review and comment, bring it back for adoption by the council.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second?
So can we discuss a little bit?
Yeah.
First, I do want to just note the irony that it's a minority stand against minority stands. Where in theory we could pass a bylaws with only a majority requirement and then immediately circle back and with that majority requirement, pass bylaws that have a 2/3 majority requirement. Since that's the opinion of the majority of the council. Anyway, that irony aside, the thing that the road I don't really want to go down is send bylaws to the county, have them say, yes, this is good, and then they come back and we vote them down.
I would offer the thought that if county council says this is the direction you need to go, that, as far as me personally, I would vote in favor of whatever county council's direction is regarding 2/3 of majority. But we have, any other questions, comments on my motion?
Well, this seems kind of weird that we're sending something, or it is proposed that we send something to the county council that does not have proper support on the council. And it just seems like a strange situation. In my opinion, what we should be sending to the county council is something that has the proper authority and approval of our council. In other words, if we are proposing changes, and we're currently acting under our current bylaws, I think we have to. If we are proposing changes, and we certainly are here, to our bylaws, then those proposed changes, if they're approved by us, they have to be approved by a 2/3 vote. Otherwise, why are we sending them anything? We're not sending them something that is properly approved by our council. So I think it does not make sense.
what we're doing is we're sending to county council our draft bylaws with one section where there are differing opinions, and we want to get the county council's opinion regarding 2/3 or majority. That is my suggestion, rather than us deliberate now the merits of 2/3 or majority. I think, having county council weigh in with an opinion on that particular section or any part of our bylaws would be prudent on our part.
Yeah, well, I propose then that we just send the county council section 701 and nothing else. And then if the county council approves that or says, no, it should be a majority, whatever, then that comes back to us. And then we vote for the entire package and send that to the county council. It will not take the county council very long to look at this and say, well, yeah, it could be 2/3 or it should be majority or whatever.
Right.
But I don't like the idea, and I imagine they might not like the idea of us sending them changes to the bylaws that are not properly approved by our council.
Not to mention, we're sending it to a whole new county council, okay? The guy's name is Jim Ross with Rennie Public Law Group. I don't think this is a way to address this matter to the county. I mean, I like Don's idea, maybe just the one item. But, you got a new county council getting, used to the ropes of the county, doesn't feel good.
Okay, okay. Let me go around this way. Zach, then Melissa, Dan, and Dave.
I agree with Robert on that point, that, you know, this might be a little bit mundane and possibly out of, you know, realm of understanding the county council. I think this is something that needs to be taken care of in-house, because that's kind of the whole point, right? The county told us to write our bylaws. There's one section that there's not, you know, approval of, and I think it's up to us to take care of it ourselves. I liked the point that Henry made about the 14-day requirement. If we could just, unless there's a sense of urgency, I know that there is a deadline. Is there a deadline to bring the bylaws into the county? I thought there was at first, but if that's not the case, then can we just give ourselves another month to like address this one thing so that we can fully approve of the bylaws next meeting, rather than, I feel like it might be a little irritating to the county for us to ask them how to do this last part of our homework.
Okay,
That's fine.
Melissa?
County council already approved the 2/3. When we sent in the bylaws that we had and they redlined it and went all over it with a fine tooth comb, they never touched that. They never said a thing about it. They approved it tacitly by not mentioning it.
To clarify your comment, Melissa, the bylaws that were sent to county council that they commented on, 7-01, 2/3 was crossed out, and the word a majority of the council members under section 7.02. So what county council reviewed, you can look at it,
The copy I saw,
county council's comments,
that's not the copy I saw.
No.
but that's the copy the county council received. So whether or not that's not what you have, that's the copy that county council responded to. So that is what they referenced.
Wait, no, sorry, I don't think that's what this is.
You don't think that's a copy that county council responded on? Cause there's his comments right there.
I think this has both Dave's revisions and county council comments.
I don't,
Cause the original one.
I think that change from 2/3 to is Dave's revision.
Okay.
And then their comment was about the entire section,
okay.
saying, we don't even know if, like, the question
If we
is,
can do the bylaws.
yeah, or bylaws are responsibility or not? I think was the question they had. I don't
Okay.
think they did the 2/3 to I think that was Dave's change.
Robert rules of order really say that 2/3 is quite acceptable for,
And is in fact the norm.
and
The
it is in
recommendation.
fact the norm. And
They,
it's
as the
not
minimum,
stated.
yeah, as the minimum.
Okay, Dan, you had a comment, then Dave?
I think we could send the draft that was brought to this meeting to the county council with a note saying, here's the bylaws that we're considering adopting. And in particular, we have a question about this section, but this is the whole of them. Can we have your comments, reflections on the whole of them? And can you lay an eyeball on this part that we have a question about? And what is your opinion on that?
Okay. Dave?
I agree with you entirely. We were tasked by county council to fix it. And we've done a lot of that repair. And I think if we're gonna take their time and attention, we ought to give them our work in progress and ask them to look at it and give us feedback on all of that. And yes, present to them the issue that we appear to have heart for them. And get their feedback on that. Bylaws aren't complicated. It's not a complicated piece of legal work. Any county council that served for any period of time over a day and a half can probably do this sort of work, not in their sleep because they have to pay attention and open their eyes, but this is not a hard lift. And furthermore, the staff council that did most of the review is still on staff. And
Right.
so if there's a need to bring institutional memory back or to this new consulting county council or interim individual, I'm sure that could be affected quite efficiently. So I agree with you. Let's show them what we've done. Let's ask for their help on this one issue that we seem to have trouble coming to a unanimous position on. We are, I think, on our way there, but I think it'd be good for us to hear the voice.
Henry?
Yeah, so I mean, my issue with it remains, if we go to them and we say, we want your feedback on this. And then they come back and they say, here's our feedback on this, and then we don't vote those bylaws. And then have to go back to them again with changes to the bylaws again, even after they've already responded. It's a bad law. I think it would be far preferable to send it to them and say, if you approve this, we will enact it, or even we have already enacted it contingent on your approval. I think, like, we can say, well, I just don't know what happens if after their review, we don't have something that can happen.
Okay,
That is it. Yeah, that's my concern.
okay, Don?
Yeah, I attended, and I think you did also, Kevin, the Board of Supervisors meeting where they were discussing eliminating all of the maps in the entire county. And one of the justifications for that proposed move, which they didn't ultimately adopt, was the excessive amount of time that county council was spending on MAC matters. And county council time is very expensive. It is not cheap. And so this is what I'm fearing about, sending this unapproved bylaw changes to them for their review, and then coming back to us and us having to then vote on it again, and maybe even proposing other changes in the interim, and then sending it back to them again for final approval. It's a waste of their time in my mind, and I don't think we should be taking any more time with the county council than needed. I think it's a waste of county resources, and the county is almost broke. We should all understand that.
Okay, Henry?
Yeah, it's also, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine explaining this to county council, like, the problem is we have a majority that thinks it should be a supermajority and a minority that thinks it should be a majority vote. And the minority is preventing the majority from voting on this because they think minorities should not be able to prevent majorities. It's a funhouse mirror situation.
It's a tyranny of the minority.
Yeah, against tyranny of the
Dave-
minority. It's a very
Dave-
strange
Hang
situation
on,
to be in.
hang on, okay. Dave and, Dave,
This is hardly tyrannical. This is majority rule. You guys are insisting on supermajority to move forward, whereas you could be done with majority rule.
But I think.
There is no pattern. I know what you're saying. And it's really, you're twisting it in a sick and perverted way. It's not necessary. Look, you guys, if you want majority rule, put majority rule in the bylaws. There's no evidence to suggest that we're gonna be constantly tinkering with the bylaws. Look, there's no past history of, repeated gratuitous changes. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. There's no demonstrable
okay.
past. And we don't meet the test for fiduciary risk, functional responsibility. This is a club. Let's
Okay,
keep it- let's keep
let
it easy.
me kind of try and land this plane real quickly, because we're kind of spinning out of
We're going in
control
circles.
here. I agree with what everybody has said. I disagree with the fact that we send one little section to county council and say, okay, we want to review that. And now, based on your opinion, we're gonna send you now our bylaws. I think one and done, and I agree with Dan, I agree with Dave, that yes, we need to send them one copy. It's not our final copy. We don't need to approve a final copy tonight. What we have to do is approve sending our bylaws to county council for review. So in contrast to what Don has said, we don't have to approve our bylaws tonight and then send it to them. We can approve to send our draft copy for review, and I think that's what my motion was earlier, and I think Melissa seconded it. We can keep talking about this, but we do have a motion and second on the table, that we move the bylaws. We prove that we move them to county council for review, bring that back, and then we will act on it. Henry?
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, it's like a path that we could go that I think would be comical and inept, but would be legit, would be if the majority of people that think it should be a supermajority say, okay, we'll go with simple majority, vote that in, and then in the next meeting, vote to change the bylaws back to a supermajority now that it's a simple majority rule. And then we still wind up at supermajority rule in the same place, right? It takes 2 extra months and it's a joke, but that would be a perfectly legitimate path forward, right? From your perspective, if at that point we change it to simple majority and the simple majority votes to reimpose supermajority, that's legit, right?
You asked me to respond.
Yes, please.
It may be procedurally legitimate, but it's functionally absurd.
I agree that it is totally absurd that that would be the only way we could get to the place that the majority wants to go.
There's no assurance.
Let me do this too. I don't mean to interrupt, but we do not have our minutes from the January 23rd meeting. At the January 23rd meeting, it was a 4-3 vote by those in attendance that we issue it as a minority in that section. And then upon review, so the majority of those in attendance at the January 23rd meeting registered a 4-3 vote to move forward with the majority on section 7.01. It was subsequent that the majority of the people, I think that's what you said the last meeting, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That the majority of the bylaw committee decided to turn it back.
The majority of the full council then on February 1 voted.
No, but what I mean is, but when the subcommittee,
Mhm.
the bylaw committee voted and it was a majority
Of the sub.
or it was unanimous?
Majority.
Okay, so it was a majority vote of the subcommittee to disregard the action on January 23rd and change it back to 2/3, correct?
Well, there was no action, but the straw poll. To
Okay,
disregard
but
the straw, or
but
to
But
not
that
take
was,
the
that was
recommendation.
a consensus at the January 23rd meeting, correct?
There was a majority vote at the January 23rd.
So it was a consensus vote,
Sure.
okay. So we're
think that's-
we're dealing now with two situations where it was a majority of our council that decided a path to take. And now we're talking about, okay, it was fine for our subcommittee, or it was fine for our special meeting to go by a majority vote. It was fine for the subcommittee to go with a majority vote to change it back to 2/3. And now we're stuck in a logjam with 2/3 and a third.
There was a
Real
subsequent
quick,
vote.
I would like to,
There was another vote, though, February 1st, when a majority went with this one,
right,
in the full council. Meeting.
right.
Yeah.
I would like to know for my edification, because I'm just presuming everything. I would like to hear from Robert. I would like to hear from Henry. And if she comes back, Melissa, I would like, and Don, actually, I would like to hear from the four of you, your justification for making it 2/3, because we're debating a lot here, majority, 2/3, majority. I don't know why each person wants it. So I'd like to know, Robert, why do you want it to be a 2/3 vote?
I stated that in the meeting last month.
Okay, well, what is it?
And that, I wanna see that this body of work that we've done together and hashed through month after month, that we memorialize it and 2/3 of the unanimity of our council can get on with business, and that we memorialize this and get it taken care of, get it done. We need to move on. We're spending all our night here again with this because of one exception. I don't, you gotta get it. For years, I've been on the council for 20 years. We operated, basically with a 2/3. So I don't
Okay.
understand.
Don? Why do you think it should be a 2/3?
Well, I did initially vote for just a majority for changing it, but then I changed my opinion based on some thoughts I had about making this document more solid and less easy to change, kind of like our Constitution. Once you establish a constitution, you do not make it easy to change. Why? Because you don't want just a majority to change something that could affect a minority in a severe manner. So that's why, constitutionally, we require, much more than a majority vote in order to change something. So that's why. But bottom line is, I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. I'm not sure it makes that much difference one way or the other. And I could really probably tolerate it either way. But I do feel that, just as a matter of principle, it should be a 2/3 majority.
Okay,
And
Henry?
I do think
sorry.
we're wasting a lot of time on this. That's not necessary.
Okay, Henry?
Yeah, I think current bylaws are 2/3. Robert's rules suggest at minimum 2/3. There are organizations that have a constitution and bylaws that are separated, one of which is meant to be stable and one of which is meant to be more changeable. We don't have that. We just have this. This occupies both roles. I think it is appropriate that the rules by which we operate be more stable than just, oh, we had a slight majority change and now we can change the rules however we want. It should be a consensus document. This is how we go about our business. And you can't have unanimity because obviously that has its own problems, but saying something more than a simple majority, I think is appropriate for the stability of the rules under which we operate.
Okay, Melissa, thank you for coming back. Can you tell us why you feel it should be a 2/3 vote?
For this very reason,
Okay,
this very reason.
I'm trying to understand the position why it should be a 2/3 vote, and you were one of the people that voted for 2/3, both in the committee and, in the general council meeting, so I'm trying to understand your position, why you feel it should be a 2/3 vote.
Probably for the very same reason that Robert's Rules of Order says it is de rigueur to have 2/3 vote, because it should not be something that should be done lightly. You shouldn't be able to just have 4 people say, oh, I want to change it. Oh, we want to change it. Oh, we want to change it. It needs to be a more serious and deliberative change.
Okay? Okay,
Everything else was approved. Everything else was approved.
right,
And then last time, the majority said, let's vote on it next time as is. You are trying to keep what the majority said we were going to do from happening.
but what's
And
your,
I'm
but,
really stuck,
okay,
and I'm sick of y'all bullshit.
okay, thank you. Don?
Just one last thing. I think the word that I was searching for that I think makes a lot of sense here to describe why I feel 2/3 makes more sense in the end is consensus. 2/3 represents much more of a consensus among a body like ours than a simple majority. So I think a change to bylaws should be consensual and not just simple majority.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. David, can you restate it?
Kevin, you moved that GMAC transmit the present draft to county council for review, comment, and ideally concurrence, and in particular, ask for advice in the voting provisions of section 701.
Okay, and we have a second, right?
Melissa Finley, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. We will take a roll call vote.
Can you call, please? I'll record.
Melissa?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Dave?
Yes.
Henry?
Nope.
Don?
Aye.
Robert?
No.
Kevin? Yes. Okay, we will forward that on to county council for their review on it. The whole section, not just that one paragraph. Henry?
Is that a direction to the bylaws committee to transmit this, or who will be writing the?
We'll send it from the secretary, and as in our bylaws that we keep playing with, those that voted no have the ability to write a dissenting opinion that will be submitted to county council. So if you feel that there's something incorrect with the bylaws that caused you to vote no, you have the ability to draft something in writing that will be submitted to county council, and it will be part of our minutes at the next meeting. So those that voted no, please get a draft to Dave within a week.
Can I ask what the intention of the council is with respect to that messaging? Because I would imagine there are various ways that could be written that would put a thumb on the scale in one direction or another, or ones that would be straight down the middle. I think it matters how that's written.
Let's have county council, our council approve the letter that gets sent.
Well, there won't be okay, that's fine. The letter is gonna be basically to county council saying, please review our bylaws to make sure that they comply.
Let's see it.
So so long as that's the simple message of saying, here are our bylaws.
Right.
Or even, here are our bylaws, we would like special attention on section 701.
I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even draw attention to any part of our bylaws other than say, this is what our bylaws are. And do they comply?
There was previous discussion about presenting the draft as a work in progress,
Right.
asking for review, comment, concurrence, but also drawing attention to the one item that was a matter of unresolved discussion, which is the voting standard in section 701. and I can write it just like that, which is pretty neutral language. And that would be my intent. I'm not looking to put my thumb down, but I think it's important for council to understand where are we tied up and to offer us input on that. Not to sway votes, but to provide the council's rationale. I think it's a good idea to include rebuttals if individuals want to do that. I'm happy to do it. I will not.
Rebuttals to what?
There are two nay votes, and our bylaws allow those who
want to
write
submit
no,
an opinion on why they voted no.
that
Um,
I'm happy to convey
Are you
that.
leaving?
That's important.
I'm leaving if I have to listen to this asshole.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep.
Okay, will you note that Melissa left at 7:15 PM? And that Zach Hayward will be sitting in her spot, as a participating council member this evening?
All right, later, guys.
Yeah, I could send a dissent that is, I don't think we should send this to you because the council doesn't have consensus on it. I don't think that's helpful,
No.
to anyone's purposes, so I don't have any interest in doing that, but what I am interested in is the way that it's communicated to them, and if it's just, like, I'm not, are you going to present the arguments for and against, or are you just gonna say, we
No,
are
it's-
stuck on
No,
step one, or?
I don't believe it's necessary for council to hear our
Yeah,
arguments about it.
I would agree.
I think it's important for council to understand that here's a work in progress, responsive to their direction,
Mhm.
incorporating other revisions as per council discussion.
Mhm.
Please tell us what you think. We have unresolved discussion related to section 7.01 voting standard. Please advise.
Great.
It doesn't have to be any more involved than that. I don't want to do their work for them, frankly.
I also believe that we need to add whether or not these bylaws need to be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors.
I can ask that question as well, if it's acceptable to council. Okay.
Okay. Don, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to emphasize how important it is to just convey, to the county council that this is our current draft. That there is a question about 701. And that's it, really. No other further comment about anything else in the document.
I think county council needs to review the whole bylaws.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not just draw attention to
Yeah.
7.01, but I think county council, because they may have a different view of our bylaws than Christian Curtis had. So I would want our current county council to be able to weigh in on it and give their opinion with the assistance of staff that helped review it as well. I think we're sharp.
I want to make sure I understand the procedure. I'll be transmitting the latest files that you gave me, both the clean copy and then markup file.
Yeah. Do we want that red line version as well, or just the clean copy?
Oh, no, I'd like to send the red lines. I think they should see it that way. It'll accelerate their work.
Okay.
Don, you make a comment, and you make it, and I'm wondering if it's in reaction to what I told Henry I was gonna say. Is there something specific about what I told him that you have an issue with and wish
I
me
think
to
it
change?
sounds okay.
All right, good.
I just want to make
you-
sure that, we're not trying to weigh in one way or the other on these issues. Just present the draft for
Okay.
review, and if we're pointing out section 701 for a particular analysis, I'm okay with that.
All right, so, but you're okay with the way I described my request to council?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, great, because if you're not, let me know. Okay, so.
Okay, any
latest
other
files.
questions? Okay. Moving on to new business, affirm or reassign committee memberships, because we didn't approve the bylaws tonight. The committee assignments as presented last week, our last meeting, will stay the same. Robert Youngling will not be a member of the Streetscape committee. That it will be Dave Schbach, Henry Mayer, and Melissa Finley sitting on that. Any questions, comments? Nothing?
Thank you, Chair, for bringing this back. I'll just state for the record, I'm concerned about Councilmember Finley's behavior. The behavior is a challenge to me, certainly being directed to me specifically. I don't wish for the state of discomedy to affect the conduct of any committee on GMAC. I am particularly concerned, however, that such behavior is, it puts in some jeopardy our relationship with external agencies that don't follow our chemistry all the time, that may not be familiar with the culture of GMAC, and that we don't always agree, and sometimes we get angry with each other. But particularly agencies that are responsible for projects that are of fundamental importance to our community, such as the State Route 1 Streetscape project. I'm concerned that the inability to control one's behavior in a civil and coherent manner puts GMAC at risk, at our brand and our ability to stand with some credibility, particularly with agencies that are responsible for important civil investments in the community.
Okay. Any other comments, questions on any of the committee assignments? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on. Henry, this is your item format and recording of GMAC meeting minutes.
I think that, from when I've looked at other agencies' minutes, they tend to be a lot simpler, and they tend to be a recording primarily of these are the actions that were proposed and the actions that were taken and the votes on those actions. And maybe a brief note of this topic was discussed, but not this is what was said and by whom. And I think that we've had friction in the past with, well, we worded it this way, but somebody else wants to word it this other way. It's not clear if it matters, but maybe it does in the future, who knows? And I just think we would substantially reduce the friction around minutes. Like, I think it's not, again, not a great look for us that we frequently can't just approve our minutes in the subsequent meeting. And I think that the more we could simplify those minutes to just a more objective, this is what we talked about and this is what we did. I think that would make all our lives a little easier. And if people really want to go back and look at the meeting, they're recorded, they can do that. And I don't think we need to do all that for them when it causes other problems.
Okay, Don?
Yeah, I totally agree with Henry on this. As a matter of fact, I think we've even had some discussion of this in the past where we said, yes, we want to just provide action minutes. And, when I'm going to go back to the Board of Supervisors again, because I think they're a good example in a lot of ways for us and how we should comport ourselves. Their minutes are extremely brief. There's just, okay, here's the subject matter. There's a vote, ayes, the noes. That's it. Move on to the next item. Subject matter, ayes, noes, and that's it. There's nothing else in those minutes. Of course, there is a recording, and you can go to the recording if you want to listen to all the detail and what each individual supervisor said. And we do that same thing here. So I think we're going to save a lot of time, both for the secretary who has to produce these minutes, as well as us, at the beginning of our meetings, approving the minutes. I think in the past, in my personal opinion, we've wasted a lot of time discussing nitpicking little items on the minutes because they were so detailed. I think that is totally unnecessary. And I favor strict action minutes with no embellishments.
Okay.
And one other point in the minutes, I think the last minutes that Dave has produced are very close to what we're considering here. Is that correct, Dave?
That's what I've been
Yeah,
trying to do.
and I want to commend you for the format.
Oh, good, thanks.
Formatting looks great,
Okay,
both for the agenda and the minutes, so keep up the good work there.
thanks for the affirmation.
Sure.
Zach?
I agree with Henry, Don, and I also commend Dave for doing a great job. I'm really happy to have the secretary. Can I ask, did we not put that to a vote? I forget if it was December, maybe right around Mary's departure. Well, like as Don said, we talked about action minutes strictly. Are we not already doing that, or is there something? How can the current minutes be more brief if they're already improved upon? Because I remember that we already decided that action minutes would be better than the verbatim stuff that Mary was doing.
Right.
So since we have people in different positions and Dave's secretary, what are we missing? Like, I guess when I asked Don, you know, in light of, you know, how Dave's been doing so far, what about the minutes could be briefer compared to how they were not too long ago?
I don't know, we'd have to take a look at them. I could bring up the latest minutes that we.
I don't want to spend too much time. I'm just curious, you know, because I feel like Dave's doing a good job, of course, but.
Well,
Let me respond,
Sure.
I believe I understand the direction. What I've tried to do, again, working from the starting point of, the previous secretary who put a lot of detail in, for, I think, all kinds of reasons. So it's not a matter of merit. But we were all struggling with that. So I've been attempting to not just change format to make it a little bit easier to look at the stuff, but to, progressively winnow back down to very, objective measures of what's the vote, what was the topic discussed, and to dial back as much as I can at what I thought was reasonable to minimum discussion. I have retained some discussion on discussion items, just so that we have a summary record, really to serve the council's purposes of things that were discussed, presented. For example, Don's presentation at an earlier meeting about updates to the website, or your discussion related to the possibility of implementing a Facebook page. Some things which I think are useful for us just to have as notes we can carry around, but I can take that out too, because it is some work, it is quite a bit of work to curate the content down. So I understand, and I'm mindful of time, if the desire by the council members is for me to record who's here, who's not, who left, who stayed, what are the items that we considered by title? And what are the votes that were taken that passed? I don't even think I'll record the unsuccessful votes, just the actions that were taken, because an unsuccessful vote or a lack of second is no action itself. You can go back to the recording for that noise. The only exception I want to offer is the somewhat brief description of CDP referrals, because for a public record standpoint, it's important for the public to understand what a CDP reference is. There isn't much in the title, so it's good for people to see. Yeah, it's a house, it's so many acres, whatever. And if that standard works for you guys, essentially, if that standard works for you, I can do that.
Okay, Robert, you have a comment?
Yeah, you gotta believe me that this new format is refreshing and nice after all the years I've dealt with the meeting minutes that we've had in the past and tried to get it to something like this. It's been difficult over the years, but it's especially nice the way I see in January and February, the way the new heading got initiated here with referring people to the verbatim recording. So I like that heading, and I see that that's on the January and February draft minutes. And as Don was saying, I think you know, if we even get a little bit closer towards how the Board of Supervisors does their minutes, it could only be even more helpful. But you know, you don't want to leave too much out, but I think it's nice with the agenda and the meeting minute format that you're doing here, Dave.
Okay, then might I suggest that David, go ahead and you've received input from everybody this evening.
You will receive as test beds, January
Go ahead and
20
submit the
January
next
23rd.
minutes. and
January
we will look
23rd,
at
we'll
that.
apply it retroactively to that,
Yeah,
and meeting minutes for tonight. take a look at them and do feedback. Please do tell me, yep, no, here, make these adjustments, okay?
But I do very much appreciate,
All right.
I would reiterate what others have said.
I got it.
Jim.
Thanks, everybody, for that constructive criticism. I appreciate it.
Well, and positive feedback. That's-
Absolutely.
That's
That's
good.
constructive too.
Okay, moving on to US Census designation for Wallala. I'd like to personally thank Don and Dave Stock for offering their public testimony during the meeting. It was a consent calendar item, as pointed out by a couple of our council members. However, our supervisor felt it was important for us to have public comments, so I'd like to definitely thank Dave and Don for weighing in that. I have to apologize that after sitting through an hour and a half of public comments, that after I made my comment, I made a quick departure and did not sit and listen to your testimony, but from what I understand, it was quite effective as well. It was a consent calendar item, so there was no objection by the board. They approved it. It will be our responsibility as GMAC to keep the pedal to the metal and make sure that the Board of Supervisors acts on this and stays engaged with it, because they have so many things on their plate. This could get lost. We had over 150, actually closer to 200 signatures in support of the census designation. So the community wants it, and I think we're headed in the right direction. So thanks to everyone that either took the survey, spoke public testimony, and really showed that Wallala is important and does need to be counted. Don?
Yeah, well, I would like to thank our chair for taking the time to drive all the way up there and make a statement in favor of this important item before the Board of Supervisors. I think that was powerful. I also want to just remind people of something that Ted Williams said to me. This was quite a while ago, and that he was basically saying, okay, listen, if Wallala, wants things from the Board of Supervisors, they need to show up. We need to show up at meetings. And it's not that hard with Zoom to make a comment in a public meeting. So that's the easiest way, and that makes a lot of sense. The point is, some of us, on issues that could impact our community, need to show up Board of Supervisors and make clear that we are either for something or maybe against something else that might be less beneficial or even harmful to our community. But our voices need to be heard. And if they don't hear our voices, then they have no idea what our position is on issues. So I think that's important that we continue going forward as issues come up, before the Board of Supervisors, because let's face it, they control the purse strings. We don't. We have no control over that. So if we want something, we need to make it clear to them, and that's what Ted was basically saying. So,
And
and it seems like we're starting to do that. So I'm just saying, let's keep it up.
And to piggyback what Don said, it really is in our best interest as a council, and I know Zach did it with his wife, Rachel. It doesn't stop here. We need to reach out, and Dan's wife, Rhonda, contacted local groups that she's affiliated with. We need to use our resources of people that we know to reach out to others in the community, because we're only 7, 8. But we have so many different contacts that we make through our daily lives. And I think it's important for us to go beyond our little niche and really engage the public. And I think the Census and Bauer Park are probably two key examples of that. Any other comments, questions on census, David?
Thank you, Chair. I agree that this is an item that's going to require monitoring and occasional cage rattling. Who gets to take that on? Or is this an element that could be, or an activity that could be assigned to an existing committee such as economic development, or you want it in a local coastal program? Is there a way to, well, anyway, you get what I'm saying, unless you're personally gonna keep watching this particular issue.
Don?
I think whoever ends up doing this needs to communicate perhaps with Ted Williams, try to determine who on the staff is charged with this, because that's all that the supervisor did. They just gave a directive,
Right,
to the CEO, because they don't boss people around. They direct the CEO to do things.
correct.
The CEO controls the staff. So if we could find out, okay, what staff member, what department, is directed now to follow up on this, then maybe we can be more effective in following up, as opposed to just, hoping the Board of Supervisors follows through on this. They've got so much else on their plate. This is a relatively minor thing for them, let's face it, but it's important for us, but they've got a lot bigger issues to deal with.
Well, leave FAR is the staff that is responsible for the census, and he does the GIS mapping for the county. He is the point of contact for the county regarding all census designations.
Okay, so
I will reach out to our supervisor to see if in fact Mr. Farr is the point of contact assigned by the county to work on this. And I'll come back at the next meeting, see what the heavy lifting is on this. It may not be any at all, it may just be ongoing information items. And if it does need some heavy lifting, maybe it might be appropriate under the Economic Development Committee. I don't know. Let me sleep on that and come back. But yeah, I think this is something we can't afford to let drop. Henry?
Yeah, I would just also say thank you to your attention and everyone who attended, and sorry I was unable to make that when I had intended to, and then for reasons I won't get into, I couldn't, but thank you for those of you who followed through.
Okay. This item was put on there partially because Melissa, and she left, because Melissa was looking for someone to print a hard copy for her. Dave has a hard copy for Melissa. It is important for everybody to fill out your Form 700 and send that in. It's due the beginning of April.
What is that? That's something I missed.
Yeah,
You should, if you didn't receive an email from me,
I could have easily missed the email. That's
I
fine.
can send it again.
Okay, thank
Do you
you.
want to do a quick recap of what Form 700 is?
Form 700 basically talks about your economic interests and the impacts it has on your serving on GMAC. All elected, appointed officials, and in many cases, department heads that make decisions that their decisions are binding and could benefit a person if they have a conflict. So the Form 700 basically says, if you do have any economic interests within the sphere of influence that your committee or council or whatever, then what happens is then you have to recuse yourself during any discussions, because you are going to reap a financial benefit, and it's usually indicated on the Form 700. That's how the county tracks to make sure that we're not doing anything illegal and influencing others to our own personal benefit. Dave?
So due on the 2nd of April. I think all of our hearts collectively go out to the elections office, given the churn that they're in the middle of right now. So trying to keep things simple for them, we ought to try. So I'm willing to take all your forms if you want to send them to me in hard copy and send them in one bundle. Or you can send them individually to the county clerk. The form has the point of contact, but you can decide. I think one way or the other, it's not that big a burden if you send yours individually.
Yeah, it's simple, but they will find it.
Don, and then Dan.
I'm just wondering if you would do a favor for us,
I
Dave,
can.
and send us all an email like a week or two before this is due,
Oh, sure.
just to remind us.
Okay, you want a reminder?
if you don't
Absolutely.
mind.
Okay.
That would help me. I mean, I can't really put it in my calendar right now because everybody would see my calendar on the screen.
No. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna resend the forms to everybody. And you can set your own tickler that rather than having me hammer on you, I'll resend everybody the forms, including Zachary. There's good instructions. I think you signed one when you first were,
Appointed?
okay.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, you should have when you first started.
yeah,
So this is an annual requirement
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
and it's very straightforward. We've done these for years. If you have any questions, if anybody has any questions about it, please do call me and I'll advise. Okay.
Dan?
I've already mailed mine in, Dave. And what I did was in the lower left-hand corner of the envelope, I put FPPC Form 700 on it, so they could throw it in the bin and not look at it until after the election stuff is over with.
That way they didn't count it as votes, right?
No,
They know not to
I
vote.
already got 2 ballots that I sent in. Each.
And the other thing about it too is if you do fail to turn it in, there is a fine, a substantial fine. So,
It's cumulative.
Yeah,
yeah,
like every day, right?
so yeah, I would say, make sure that
No, I
you
think
do
it's due.
turn that in right away. Any other questions on that?
I assume that, it's hard copy, but signature required to send in, it's not like it's on
There's
the
hard
scans.
copy.
Oh.
There's an
You can,
address.
you can fill the form out,
Yeah,
print it, wet sign,
Mhm.
wet date,
Mhm.
put it in an
Sure.
envelope.
Okay.
Send it.
let me make another suggestion to everybody. Make a copy of it before you mail it, because the county has been known to misplace a form.
No.
No way.
Yes, way.
Well,
And-
But we're dropping it into a very difficult time for them. You know, they're
Yeah.
scrambling right now, so, you know,
Yeah.
we need to do our best to help them out.
Yeah, so do make a copy of it and keep it in your file, Dan?
Oh, that said, it is set up to be e-signed also from the FPPC.
But Mendocino County can't accept.
They can't accept that way, but you can print it that way and zap it off. You can't electronically transfer.
No, they're looking for a wet sign. So even if you use the form to embed a digital signature, the county won't accept it. I've seen those rejected.
Really?
Yeah.
And I would,
Use-
and I
use
would
the pen.
suggest sign it in blue ink,
Just for contrast.
because a black ink, sometimes can be misconstrued as a copy.
Okay,
Good to know.
thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Great. Public agency referrals, item 9.1, CDP 2018-0005 Clifton, May, Greg, and Mary Kate Warner. Dave?
What you see on the display is a rendition of the CDP referral. I'm not gonna read it because it's in the agenda. I'm sure everyone's looked at it. But to note that what you see on the agenda, which is the description in the form, is different than what the applicant submitted in a few minor but important ways, and this happened before. Could you please launch the presentation slides for me?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna I will go quickly. We will not need any more than 10 minutes to go through the facts. And I might be able to go faster. If there are any questions as I go through this material, please do stop me and I'll attempt to answer them. So we last saw this about a year ago. This is a after the fact application due to a code violation for unpermitted vegetation removal and grading. Essentially, this is a property on the north side of Fish Ranch Road before the kind of the gooseneck on halfway up and down the hill, where a previous owner went in and did some extensive grading, about 15,000 square feet worth, which was done without permit and done incompetently. And there was a code violation rendered for that. We last considered it here about a year ago. The recommendation at that time was to proceed with a domestic well to provide water supply for a restoration program that was documented by a company called Soul Ecology Restoration. Next slide, please.
Sorry, and that's with a non-domestic well, right?
It didn't really matter.
Okay.
It could be, it didn't really matter. They just needed water in order to do planting and have irrigation. But it was not, the GMAC recommendation was not to proceed with development.
Yeah.
At that time. So what we've got is an 11.25 acre property. General plan and zoning, rural residential 5 acre minimum, so it meets that acreage minimum. It's about 1.5 miles east of State Route 1, so it's not in the view shed, but not in the view corridor. It's substantially separated to the north of Fish Ranch, so it's really the actual property itself is not visible from the public roadway. Elevation is about 1,100 feet up, so it's in that sunnier part of the coast, well within the banana belt. Soils are well drained, although thin, and quite steep through most of the extent of the property. There are 3 tribs to Roseman Creek. They're all seasonal. Roseman Creek, however, is an anadromous fishery, so it's a sensitive resource in the coastal zone. The habitat is really typical for what we find at that elevation in our neighborhood, you know, Doug Fir, Tan Oak Alliance, as well as Coast Redwood Alliance. The botanical surveys didn't find any noteworthy occurrences of special status plants or animals. So again, it's just like the usual place around here. Next slide, please. What we got with the referral is the packet that you saw the cover page for, and there were a set of technical studies, one done way back in 18. This is the first geotechnical soil engineering report that was done in reaction to a code violation on grading, followed by a piece by West and Associates, a much more detailed geotechnical analysis and prescription for restorative grading and drainage work. Soil Ecology was retained and did a report, again, as I mentioned, of biological resources, including a botanical survey by a local professional, as well a restoration mitigation and monitoring plan, taking the data from the biological resources survey and coming up with a prescription for recovery. I have to note that I called Mr. May, who was the signed applicant, and asked if I might walk the site so that I could get a sense of it in context of the documents, and Mr. May refused permission. Next slide, please. So all of this assessment is based on documents I could get my hands on, and as well as consultation with county staff. So the technical studies, really straightforward. The cut and fill that was done was not done correctly, and both studies recommended almost virtually complete restorative grading. So essentially, take out the old cut and fills and redo them at angle of repose. Make sure that fill materials were not contaminated with trees and other vegetation, and try to get back as close as possible to, again, a 2-to-1 slope, and then restore drainage across the site so that it was as much as possible, not original, but as much as possible original functionality. Question?
The refusal in May, how are they partners with the Warners?
In this case, they were both on the application.
Did you try asking the Warners?
I didn't have contact information in the CDP, and I don't go beyond what's given to me.
On the count?
Correct.
Okay. Because I have contact people for them if you ever want it.
I think after tonight, my interest will be going to near, if not zero.
Okay.
Other than rendering our recommendation.
Okay.
So you can see the exhibits here. These are just some snips from the West and Associates piece. It's a very professional document. Next slide, please. Kind of bottom lines, the continuing bottom lines, the biological resources review was essentially bring back about 0.7 acres of the habitat that's there, because it's functional, not just from who lives there right now, but it's also an important contributor to an anadromous fishery watershed. They also felt comfortable that the development could get within 50 feet of those drainage center lines because they were ephemeral. They're not running year round. the biologist felt comfortable with that limit. The restoration, mitigation and monitoring plan has a very detailed prescription for what to do, when and how, and also how to conduct monitoring after the fact, and that monitoring is important in order to assure performance according to the prescription. Next slide, please. Well, I was able to talk with the county planner, nice lady named Shelby Miller, who unfortunately, this project has bounced around, I'm sure frustratingly to the applicants, but it is now in Ms. Miller's portfolio. And she furnished fairly simple elevations and plan views of the two houses, small houses, a 1,250 square foot house and a 950 square foot house, and essentially a utility building, a barn, call it what you want. As well, topo plan that showed the building footprints located in space. Ms. Miller also met and shared with me her notes with Cal Fish and Wildlife staff in November last year. They took a hard look at the vegetation cover and found that there's substantial regeneration in motion. And this may be something quite different over the past year, since we've had excellent winter water that's carried over throughout the summertime. So it appears that natural regeneration is proceeding. However, there are extensive areas that are getting hammered by invasive plant populations. So those notes from the CDFW site visit include a prescription for restoration. What should be planted where, at what intensity? So how many plants per square foot or per acre? Where to remove invasive plants? But differently than the soil ecology prescription, CDFW was recommending 100-foot development setback from the seasonal streams. Okay, well, that's the regulatory agency, and ultimately we follow their lead, since they're the ones who are going to have to issue permits or not. Ms. Miller also shared further findings, because I kind of hammered them, about the technical report recommendations, particularly with respect to grading. The CDFW and county staff feel that regrading is not warranted for environmental restoration, and they're worried that opening up that site again is going to potentially cause sedimentation impacts on those water courses, and they're very reluctant to do that. They felt too that the site appears to be draining correctly, and that replacement of culverts and fixing drainage ditches was not needed, which is great. You know, they were on the ground and they saw how things were going, and that's important. But they also provided best management practices to make sure that erosion doesn't lead to sedimentation, and when those measures should be installed with respect to construction, which is great. That's the gold standard. Next slide, please. My concerns, looking at this stuff, you can see that kind of a snip there showing that essentially this is the development area of the property. The kind of the wide open areas are the graded pads. And you can see kind of darker bands up and down and to the sides. Those are areas that were subject to the illegal cuts and fills, and they're over steep. So I noted earlier there are some minor discrepancies between the referral and the application. Well, that's a matter of concern, but again, neither here nor there. The applicant didn't propose remedial actions, even though those actions were understood and known by the applicant in the proposal. That's a matter of concern, but again, not a showstopper. We don't get in this referral detailed plans for development. This is quite different than what we get in other, what we've received in other applications. And that does present a constraint to essentially what we can advise on. Ultimately, we also are accustomed to seeing CAL FIRE and other live fire safety input from agencies that indicates that the applicant has consulted with those agencies in advance of the CDP referral. This has not happened. CDFW also pointed out that compliance with CAL FIRE requirements for wildfire fuel reduction and management will be assured one way or the other. one way or the other, the prescriptions that staff furnished about site restoration and erosion and sedimentation controls don't give us any benchmarks for performance. We don't know when those will be implemented. We don't know who's going to be watching to make sure that they work. And there's no indication that that monitoring will be reported to stakeholders such as the agencies. My concern, again, looking at this footprint here, is that all three buildings are placed close to or on locations that were subject to the illegal grading. That to me is a red flag. Next slide, please. So here are my recommendations to us in terms of comments. It looks to me like this is the application, the proposed use is consistent with the general plan and zoning, which is great. And it's also appears consistent with the LCP. The referral doesn't give us enough information, me, frankly, to make a recommendation to you on the proposed residential development. There's just not enough there really to say much of any of substance. I think the technical studies were competent. They were professionally done. Their recommendations were appropriate, reasonable, and practicable. However, I recommend that GMAC defer to county staff on their assessment of existing conditions, their concerns about potential environmental impacts of recommended remedial work, and their list of BMPs. Ultimately, it's up to the county to decide how to regulate what goes on this property. And I think the list it's a competent approach. Next slide, please. So what I would recommend is that we tell the county, in addition to things that the first four items that we recommend that the CDP be approved, particularly to implement the BMPs that are described by Planner Miller, which is consistent with Planner Miller's description of the CDP purpose, which is to minimize environmental impacts. We get it. That makes sense. I would ask the county require that as part of the final CDP, that there's a schedule for implementation that includes post-restoration and construction monitoring reporting, so that somebody at the county and ultimately Fish and Wildlife, can assure that what's being done to restore the site is in fact working and that it's durable and that the environmental protections are being accomplished. And then finally, this concern is nothing about environmental quality. This is all about geotechnical competence for structural construction and stability. I suggest that we require that the applicant conduct geotechnical assessments at those footprints as part of the building permit process, so that foundation designs can be properly informed by ground conditions, and that the county doesn't get itself in a situation where it has issued a building permit without the knowledge that the site can sustainably and resiliently bear the loads and stay stable with those occupied structures. That's it.
Okay, any discussion from the council? Any questions? Henry?
Yeah, first I want to commend and thank you for your detailed, attentive, and what I'm sure was a lot of work treatment of all of this.
Hopefully it
Very
makes
much
us
appreciated.
faster here.
Yeah. My question is just, like, everything before this slide makes me question whether the applicant is likely to operate in good faith with compliance with the various restrictions placed on them and recommendations put in front of them. So I don't know whether that's our role to call out, but that's my reaction. Is nothing about this instills faith in me that they will take care of it, and my knowledge of how strapped the county is for both financially and in terms of staffing, that the county is not necessarily going to do all of the things that they might need to do to ensure compliance.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's a fallback on Fish and Wildlife, and whether they're going to actually do that, we're far away from them. I just wonder if this is the kind of thing that then is going to slip through the cracks and wind up a disaster.
Do you want me to respond?
I would love it to.
we need to try to keep ourselves in an objective space,
Mhm.
but the issue of follow through is a key one, and agencies throughout the state employ different techniques. One of them is to require monitoring, ongoing monitoring at set intervals, reporting so that the results of that monitoring conducted by a suitable professional is visible, and if necessary, some assessment of performance so that if there's a need to adapt, that adaptive process is done. That's one approach. It's not terribly burdensome, although it does increase costs. Another approach is that some agencies require bonding for restoration work as part of a permit application. That's really expensive. That kind of tips us into this sort of good faith, bad faith contest position. I considered putting that up here as a recommendation. On the other hand, I think that might just a bit too far for GMAC to get into this bonding issue, because ultimately GMAC doesn't bear the liability for the permit approval.
Yeah.
And that's where the bonding really feeds into police power, and we just don't have that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the gamut. I agree with you. It's going to be tough for the county to have manpower and capacity to get out there. Same thing for CDFW, but at least if the applicant conducts monitoring and is done professionally, and if there's a report, at least there'll be an information base that if there are concerns, somebody can act on.
Does sorry, if people don't mind me asking a follow-up, does the applicant pay for the monitoring or?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. So this would be, do they choose the monitor?
They might, but an amendment to this would be to require monitoring by a suitable professional, suitable certified professional.
Yeah.
And, we'll let the county get into that.
Yeah.
That means and methods thing. It's just what we're suggesting is, hey, guys, keep eyeballs on this, keep the right eyeballs on this. And let the county decide if and how they want to implement.
Robert?
The applicant, when they came to us last time, seemed to express a desire to get things right at that property. And we tried our best at the time with the information that we had to help facilitate that. The applicant knew what they were getting into, I believe. The real estate circles knew all about that property, so to say, how a previous owner had really done some illegal things there. So I think, and then I think you mentioned something about there's the other applicant who is a longtime local around here, the Warners. I don't know, I get the feeling that they're trying to help this applicant, the Mays. And there's a lot going on here at this property, a hell of a lot. They've expressed it all there. In fact, Dave's doing what I feel is kind of like the county's work practically here. A lot of it. I mean, there's a lot of things to be aware of on this property.
Yeah.
That's all.
Zach?
No, I didn't have any.
Dan?
I just hope CDFW keeps their thumb on it. They're the ones who are gonna be protecting Roseman Creek, as a watershed. And I know personally that the wardens in this area who are responsible for enforcing that stuff are, being very, vigilant on siltation and like issues, the anadromous, which are on the top of the radar right now.
Don, do you have anything?
I'll just say that, I'd like to acknowledge the very thorough work that Dave has done on this. And producing this slideshow as well. It's excellent. And I remember, I think it was Robert and I that visited this property, it was a little over a year ago. And at the time, we just approved a well for them because we could see what they, where they were going, but we didn't want to approve anything else at that point other than just an exploratory well. But you've had to look into it a lot more deeper fashion than we did. So I'm fine with the recommendations that you've come up with.
Okay.
You want
We
to make,
need-
is that a motion?
I move that we, approve the recommendation that Dave has presented, for this particular property.
And can we add also, that, he draft response to the county? You want to add that to that, your motion?
And, yeah, I move that, I add to the motion that, Dave respond to the county in an appropriate manner to communicate our recommendations. And this is on CDP 2018-0005.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Second by Robert. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carry.
thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
You
Good
bet.
job.
Thank you, Dan.
Robert, you're up.
Maybe it's
Um,
standard.
That's a-
We did handle this last month, I thought, but, I did follow up with a letter to the county, on this item,
Okay,
to, Liam Crowley,
okay.
the planner. So that's, done,
So that's done.
done.
Excellent. Okay,
Thank you, Robert.
You sent me the contact info and I took
nice.
it from there.
Thank you. Committee reports, Bauer Park. I got an, email from Ted Williams, our supervisor, and he indicated that there were 500 surveys received to date.
Yes.
I'd like to give a shout out to, the Fix Bauer Park group, because they really did a huge outreach in getting people that are impacted by Bauer Park to respond to the survey. So please pass that on to Rachel and the group.
She's awesome.
The deadline is March 15th for surveys, so you can still keep submitting them. It is going to make a difference, and I appreciate our supervisor taking the lead on that and putting the survey together with staff and providing that information to us and asking us to disseminate it as we can. And we've done a great job. All the websites, everybody, in addition to the ICO carried a story, and I think there was another story on it again
Today.
regarding it. So we're very fortunate that our community is jumped on board with this. There will be a meeting on April 6th at the Walala Arts Center from 1 to 3 p.m. So yes, the survey is great, but as we've seen and as Don has stated earlier, our participation in person really sends a strong message. So I would suggest get the word out to as many people as we can and show the county that we do care.
Can you remind me the date on that?
Pardon me?
Can you remind me of the date on that?
Yes, April 6th, 1 to 3
Well,
at the Walala Arts Center.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. The Bauer Park Restoration Project has come to the attention of the Mendocino Coast Recreation and Park District. The district is evolving since its transfer of the CV Star Aquatic Center to the city of Fort Bragg. The board of directors upon which I sit and our new general manager are working hard to number one, get the district on stable financial footing. And number two, configure the district to deliver services throughout its 75-mile coastal service area. Bauer Park represents an enormous opportunity for the district to project services into our community, into the entire South Coast. And as a result of that, we, as a member of the board of directors, and I will be sitting with county staff next Monday for an initial meeting to discuss how the district and county can collaborate on ongoing operations and maintenance at Bauer Park to combine the strengths, complementary strengths of the two organizations in a way that ensures that Bauer Park doesn't experience the dilapidation that it has, and that it continues to evolve in ways that serves our changing community and does so in an affordable way for the entire population that depends upon Bower Park as a central resource here on the South Coast. So I'll keep you apprised of those discussions as we move forward.
That's great news.
Yeah, it is. I just want to comment. I'm really happy to hear that, because that's one of the major sticking points that the Fixed Bower Park Committee has been concerned about. One of the points with the $2.2 million from the state requires that the county continue to maintain the park. And so far as the Fixed Bower Park Committee is concerned, or what they've heard from Nadia Tipton is it's gonna cost about $10,000 a year. We don't have the money. So that's a really good thing. Thank you for focusing on that, working on that, because that's gonna make that committee really happy, because, you know, we want all the things for the park, but if there's no future plan on how to run it, and I really like to be kept in the loop of how those talks go. I know that we're curious about, you know, if there's, you know, there used to be an on-site caretaker. I'm sure that's not gonna happen again. That was a niche kind of under the rug thing that happened for like 20 years. But I'm glad to hear that there's at least between the county and what was the
Mendocino Coast Recreation and Park District.
Mendocino Coast Recreation Park
It's
District.
the other local agency here.
Yeah, cool. Good.
So we're gonna make sure it's here.
Happy to hear it.
I will, I'll promise to keep GMAC informed. When there's something substantive to discuss. I think the agencies we're just kicking off. And it's likely that these kinds of relationships take time to mature. But as I have more than less reliable contours of that framework, of that relationship, I will report here. And you can expect that public will be involved, the community will be consulted on this relationship.
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question about basically where the project's at in regards to phase one, and also in relation to, you know, the April 6th meeting where we're going to talk about the design plan. So my question is, if, you know, if my understanding is correct, phase one is the hazardous tree, essentially, if that's still the case. And so phase one is already effectively in motion. Obviously, we're delaying it for Little League, but phase one is able to be in motion while at the same time the committee is engaging with the architect what the actual, you know, next phase 2 and 3 are going to be, because there's been a little bit of misunderstanding, you know, so some of the people I've talked to about, like, you know, are phase 2 and 3 essentially lumped together. Like there's not really that much clarity beyond phase 1, which I understand would be should be, you know, what April 6th meeting should remedy. But so I can comment on that.
Well, as I understand, phase 1 is to mitigate all of the hazardous trees and vegetation in Bower Park. Thanks to our supervisor, they've been able to postpone that and now accommodate the Little League for their full season, which is great. Janelle Rao, I'm sure all of you know, Janelle Rao is no longer the director of GSA. There is a new director, and he is the deputy CEO of the county. His name is Steve, and I forgot his last name, but anyway, he is now overseeing the department, and he is very engaged with us to make sure that the Bower Park repairs get done. But first and foremost, it's to mitigate all of the tree issues. What the game plan is for the contractor to go in and work in other parts of the park that do not impact the ball fields. So, not to hold them up, but what they're looking at now is making the areas safe on the ball field, the picnic area, and the north playground area. and make sure that there's no hazardous conditions there, either with vegetation or trees. And then they will preclude any further work until after the season's over. And then I think our April 6th meeting, in addition to the 500 responses, will kind of give an indication of what the priorities are for the community in going into phase 2 and phase 3. Do they want, let's say, the basketball court to stay where it's at? Do they want it relocated? Do they want a new amphitheater? So all those things they will be looking at that as part of the public input on April 6th.
That makes sense.
Any other, Dan?
It's not really in the purview of this commission per se, this council. But I've had a couple incidents up at Bower Park that I think we probably ought to be aware of. You're probably all aware of the water leak it's above the restrooms there. And that is really overfilling the pond now. I mean, there's a lot of water coming down there.
Yeah.
It is big. Yeah, it's ugly.
Yeah.
And it's washing under the path, below the restrooms into the pond, and the spillway's running over. But the main thing was, I was up there the other day and there were half a dozen junior high kids on motorcycles tearing up the footpaths. And I mean, really doing damage. I called the sheriff's office and they said they would also pass it on to CHP because it's public land. They can't be licensed motorcycle operators. They can't ride on public lands, etc., as well as the actual damage they were doing. So hopefully both the sheriff and CHP will be keeping an eye out for this because it's counterproductive to restoration.
Exactly.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
I will say, I know that, I mean, growing up around there, before the 10 acres north of the baseball field was purchased, that used to be the free for all for all of the neighborhood kids that did ride, you know, dirt bikes. And that's now someone's property now, so that is unfortunate to hear that, you know, like I feel bad for the kids that want to like do their thing because it is a recreational thing around here, but it's also not okay that they mess up the park that's already messed up. So
Yeah, we almost bought that 10 acres. It looked
Really?
for sale. We were looking to build a house, and I took one look at all the dirt bike trails around that. Yeah, you're gonna need razor wire to keep this property closed.
yeah,
And they're up and down Old Stage on the shoulders
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just not safe.
Okay, any other comments on Bower Park?
Yeah, does anybody heard any update on that leak recently? Cause I know they've been saying we need a few dry days
Yeah. that
before
was the
we can
last I heard.
evaluate it.
That's it.
We've had,
Yeah, the ground's
had a
gotta
couple
dry
of-
out before they can dig a hole.
that's
Yeah.
wow.
The bottom line, it'll just collapse and fill up on it.
yeah, so probably not enough time before the next one comes through.
Boy, it's paying that water bill.
I've heard that there's been a leak that the county's not paying for a very long time. So I'm curious about how that factors in.
Yeah, I'm surprised because that's north of a lot of water companies, water, isn't it?
Right,
Exactly,
yeah.
they're not happy about
I'm surprised they haven't been out there with a big wrench, shut the whole damn thing off.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Next item, Caltrans SR1 Wallala Downtown Enhancement Project. Robert, you'll need to recuse yourself and not participate in the discussion.
I'm not going to.
Dave?
Sure. On the 4th, the Mendocino County Council of Governments Board of Directors received an update, a presentation, and I've furnished slides. I don't know if anybody has any questions about it. An update from the Caltrans project manager, who spoke briefly about the already well understood need and purpose of the project. A list of engineering features, that's kind of a simple list with what's purported to be quantities. All this, I don't know how it's derived from preliminary design. And then a project schedule. I'll just, for the record, briefly read in the project schedule elements that were furnished. In 2023, the project was approved with the final environmental document late last year. In 2024, right-of-way acquisitions will have begun, in fact, and Caltrans will continue project development and design. In 2024, applications for regulatory permits will be submitted. In 2025, the project is expected to be ready to list for construction solicitation. And in 2026, construction will begin. I just want to add that,
Dave, it's up on screen now.
oh, great. So purpose and need, this is why the project's happening. It's been extensively published. I didn't think that we needed to take a lot of time. Unless members want me to read that too. Anyway, and then the next slide, thanks. So this slide is a summary of about lack of a better word, project features. You can see here the list includes a sidewalk and reconstructed sidewalk and pedestrian crosswalks and reconstructed curb ramps. And I'm not sure exactly how these items are defined. But anyway, this is how Caltrans project manager wanted to summarize the description of the project. She did not furnish examples of the plan layouts, but they are available. Next slide, please. I want to add to the schedule that I just read that in 2024, right-of-way acquisitions have begun. First stage in acquisitions is outreach to property owners, and that is happening. Also, what has occurred, and you members of the community may have seen the Caltrans surveying crew on the road this week. So the purpose of that survey was to identify the locations of the existing right-of-way boundary, as well as locations for a temporary construction easement. And so the depth of the construction easement outside of the right-of-way varies depending upon location and need for laydown or mobilization or other kinds of support. Clearly, if there's a structure right at that right-of-way or close to the right-of-way, the TC or temporary construction easement will be limited to open area. That has been surveyed. I want to ask the community not to touch the survey markers, please. Not only is it illegal, it really messes up Caltrans badly, and that won't help anybody. If there is a need to contact Caltrans regarding the survey, people can find their way to me, and I can act as a liaison in my role here on GMAC to that functional area. What one will also see looking at the various survey markers is that this project will involve substantial amounts of utility relocation. Utilities such as electrical power that are undergrounded, thanks to Robert and others' good work in past years, but also telecommunications, drainage, and various other infrastructure. So for a small project, it's complicated by the fact it's running through the middle of an established semi-urban area. So it is not a simple job. Permit submittals are going to run the gamut from local coastal permit approvals, as well as approvals from Cal Fish and Wildlife, the Regional Water Quality Control Board. They've got a list. And so I will, of course, be monitoring that progress and reporting to GMAC. I wanted to mention too that Councilmember Hess did attend the MCOG meeting on the 4th and asked a question to Caltrans regarding a pollutant called 6-ppd quinone. This is a chemical that's added to rubber tires, and it's a formulation to resist ultraviolet deterioration, which in and of itself is a good thing. We like our tires just to roll where we want them to roll. The big problem is that 6-ppdq has recently been determined to be an extremely toxic chemical to anadromous fish, particularly salmon and steelhead. Given that this section of the highway drains virtually directly into the estuary, which for extensive periods of the year is occluded by the sandbar, and thus essentially a toxic cooker. It's a concern. And particularly in the context that the state of California is investing in partnership with the Redwood Coast Land Conservancy in an effort to restore and enhance salmon habitat in the lower estuary. So Caltrans is aware of this issue. I too have commented repeatedly in the past. I will continue to do so. The response by Caltrans project manager is that that is an issue that will be dealt with in permitting. That type of response is worrisome. I'm going to continue to monitor that issue and report to this council on that issue. I don't have anything else to offer you at this time, but I share your concern. And I'm not entirely satisfied with the Caltrans response at this time.
CDFW and Coastal Commission both jumping on their case about this.
Not evidently. Not at this time.
Yeah, Dave Owen, thank you for mentioning this issue about the chemical, because it is a real environmental issue that we face here and other, of course, locations up along the coast near waterways and roads. And I'm not the only one. Obviously, Dave's aware of this issue. RCLC people are aware of it. And I think we're all hoping that Caltrans comes up with some kind of solution that mitigates or at least minimizes the amount of this toxic chemical that would flow into the estuary during storm periods. So, yeah, Dave, as long as you are totally aware of this issue, and I know you are, and the committee sort of keeps this in mind, you know, any other times that you have interactions with Caltrans as the project proceeds, that's great. You know, I just wanted to know that the committee that you're a part of now is aware of that.
Yep.
And will follow up.
Absolutely.
Henry?
Yeah, take this with a large grain of salt. My read on sort of the tone of that response at the MCOG meeting was, it felt like they thought they were going to be required to deal with this and would rather they weren't. Which that was what it sounded like to me. It was like, yeah, this is like they don't want to do it, but that they felt like they would be forced to. Whether that is true or not, and my reading could be totally off, but for what that's worth, that was what it sounded like to me. Is that
My impression?
yeah.
Not too far off. The project manager and her colleagues, they are aware of this issue, if not for my repeated comments over now many months. I believe other agencies have kicked in on the topic, but I don't have documented evidence of that. This is an emerging science problem. It's still relatively new. However, the evidence is absolutely compelling, coming primarily out of Washington State. And so amongst experienced professionals working in the field, this is not a matter of toxicity debate. It's a bad chemical, and salmonids are particularly vulnerable to it. However, it's a huge conundrum to fix it, and it is a particular conundrum to fix it here, where we have so little distance between the roadway and the bluff for that runoff to be attenuated. So Caltrans knows about it. They need to think about it. My take, perhaps a little different than yours, was they're really not ready right now to talk about it, but I believe they are aware. And we're going to keep it on their punch list. Okay. Any other questions in the interest of time?
I'm just curious, is there an alternative? Is there a known alternative to this chemical being used? Is there?
That's a great question.
I guess what's the conundrum with that said? Like, what's the conundrum with Caltrans, like, effectively, if it weren't for
Go ahead, Don.
making noise, what's their alternative construction? I'm just curious, is there material that we're aware that they could use that's better?
Well, my understanding is the EPA is looking into this issue now, based on the Washington studies that they've received. Ultimately, I think the long-term solution is gonna be a change in how they make these tires and what chemicals they use. So perhaps at some point, the EPA will make a ruling that the tire manufacturers will have to follow to eliminate, at least in the future, this issue that is really absolutely deadly to certain species of fish.
We're talking about the tires that are on
All-
like, on
all
the
tires.
equipment. Oh, just all
NRA
tires,
tires.
our
Our
tires.
tires too,
everything.
yeah.
So this is just a thing that's already happening, they're in our tires, this isn't like, this is what the big tractors use when they tear up the road,
No.
when they're gonna be here for years, it's like.
It's
a thing,
truck
yeah,
and
I
vehicle
understand.
tires, yeah.
Okay.
But Zachary, that the conundrum certainly is about the source, which is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And for a very long time. And the hope is that at some point, something will change on that source side of the equation. The dilemma here is not so much whether we can ask Caltrans to change that
Right,
tire manufacturing process. It's how can Caltrans implement this project in a way that helps to reduce the movement of that chemical from the dust that rubs off cars and lands on the road and gets washed off through storms. You know, a year like this, we've got 47 inches already down now. Yay. But all that goes very quickly because the geographic separation is so short and it's so steep. All those drainage ditches are virtually reporting directly to outfalls into the water. There's no attenuation. When I say attenuation, there's nothing treating that effluent, that runoff effluent, to either slow the effluent reporting out. You know, frankly, when water comes down here, you don't want it to stand it around, you want it to leave. But there's nothing to slow it down and nothing to treat it before it's released into the environment. So treatment can take different forms, but most of them take room. They take space, either above ground in, say, for example, bioswales that are planted with vegetation that take up constituents if they're able to hold it long enough, or subsurface vaults that do essentially digestion before effluent occurs. All of these things take space.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of space.
Nope.
That right of way is narrow. Caltrans is not going to go buy more if they can avoid it, other than to support the precise limits of the project, the purpose and need that you see there. And it'll be a very difficult conversation with adjacent landowners through whom that drainage passes. So this is a big challenge. We ought not to minimize it. I've tried to encourage the project manager, this one and her predecessor, to take it really seriously because it's a design issue. It isn't a Band-Aid. It is something that if it's going to work, it has to be brought into the way the project's designed and the way it's put on the ground. So in the Caltrans rubric, however, the typical process has steps. The project is designed and then it's evaluated for effluents kind of after the fact. That may prove to be an inefficient sequence in this case because of the constraints of the conundrum. So Don and others and myself are attempting to encourage Caltrans to take this issue on as a really big challenge. It's going to be hard to fix it, hard to do anything really, and to do it earlier rather than waiting till later.
But would it be advantageous or dangerous to include community awareness and input on this, or would it? I mean, you know, like everything else that we're talking about, community engagement, making noise, you know, showing up in numbers, is there anything like that might move the needle with something like this that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, the project's in a little bit of a pipeline, a little bit. It's in a pipeline, a pipe that has a few perforations. Most of those perforations are with adjacent landowners about purchasing property, either to borrow it for temporary construction or to purchase slivers of land because the right of way is not quite big enough. There are occasional interactions with Mendocino County Council of Governments. So occasionally the project goes on their agenda and they hear an update. So that's a place for public comment. But until Caltrans gets to a juncture where there's a need for formal public outreach, it's not likely that it won't be solicited. Does that stop any one of us from offering our opinion? No. The question then is whether or not Caltrans can use that opinion in its form. So I'm watching the project. I'm attempting to interact with the Caltrans manager and the Caltrans staff and our colleagues at MCOG to advance topics of concern when it's appropriate to do it and in ways that are helpful.
Yeah.
You know, keep them, moving in the right direction. I'll keep you apprised. That's the best I can do.
Yeah.
I don't want you to spin your wheels or waste your time, but I will keep on briefing us
Yeah.
collectively on a monthly basis.
Appreciate it.
That,
Okay, if you would please make note that, Dave, that, Robert is rejoining.
Okay.
For our next item. Actually, I should say Councilmember Youngley is rejoining us, for item 10.3, 10.3. Community center reconstruction. We're gonna make this real quick. We have 14 general contractors that have been submitted or have been sent requests for qualifications. We're receiving those, are due back by the beginning of next week. The architect is going to review the initial responses and then make a recommendation to a subcommittee of the Walla Community Center. 2 people from the rebuilding committee and 2 people from the board. And they will comprise the interview committee. And they will be interviewing up to 5 general contractors based on their information presented through their RFQs. Also an evaluation of their existing or previous projects, and also based on conversations with their references. So we're hoping to have a recommendation to the full board within a week or 2 after the interviews. So we are moving forward with the general contractor, hoping to identify someone. We are going through the final review phase of the 100% design, draft design. And that is being prepared, hopefully to submit the plans to the county in May of 2024. What we're looking now is to seek a general contractor that might be able to work within the time frame of putting a shovel in the ground from fall 2024 to spring 2025. So it's a very ambitious process, but the community definitely is looking for the community center to be rebuilt. We have a really great subcommittee and board of directors, and I have to give a big shout out to our architects. They've been fast-paced pushing this through, and could not have done any better than bringing them on board and working with them. And they know how to collaborate with the community, the board of directors, and volunteers. So Dave and I are available for any questions you may have. Dave, do you have any comments to add to that?
no, thanks. Excellent presentation, Kevin.
Was there was a community meeting, for the Wahlberg Community Center, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was it April? Was there?
We're trying to finalize a date for a public launching.
Okay, so there isn't that.
So we've got, right now, what they're preparing 6 renderings, 1 model, display model, plus a bunch of handouts that we want to inform the community on what the scope of the community center project is. That will probably also be the time when we will launch our capital campaign to raise money to build the community center. But it's going to happen quickly, and yeah, we're hoping within April. May at the latest. So thank you for asking that. Any other comments, questions?
It's definitely beneficial that you got the waiver of the coastal development permit, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't there something in the code that after you have to do something within a year or something like that?
What happened, we were fortunate, the county worked with us, because it was an arson fire.
Right.
We did receive a 1-year, extension and, for our permit, to file a permit with the county and not have to go through the coastal commission. The county was very kind to, usually the clock starts from the date that it was burned, destroyed. So that would have been February 13th, 2024. The county, and I guess I should thank the Swallows, because the Swallows inhabited the burned structure. We weren't able to do the demo till September. So the county is going 1 year from the start of the demo. So we have 1 year from September as opposed to 1 year from February. So I guess,
The Swallows vacated, huh?
yeah, I guess the Swallows taking residency in the burned structure allowed us a little time to stay within the county exemption.
Nice.
Yeah. Local coastal program, town plan update, David?
Sure. The Mendocino County Board of Supervisors on February 27th, hired 3 technical teams to conduct studies that are part of the local coastal program update. These are funded primarily by grants from the Coastal Commission. The 3 studies are a visual and archaeological resources study, coastal groundwater study, and a State Route 1 capacity study. So these are important technical fundamentals for the overall update. The Grassroots Institute will be convening a public meeting teleconference on the 14th. That's next week at 5 p.m. I've sent you guys all a link to that. I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it, so maybe you can do the report next month. Importantly, if you haven't
recorded, so.
they usually record it, so I'm definitely going to listen. But you can do the report too, though. Anyway, what's important is that the agencies will be there. And so this might be an opportunity to pose questions to the agencies, but at least listen to a report on where things are at in the study. I really don't have anything else to offer,
Yeah.
but I hope people can attend.
Any questions? Seeing none? Don? Electric vehicle charging, anything?
Well, I really don't have anything to report, but I actually thought that this wouldn't be on the agenda anymore.
It was, yeah,
I said something. to you.
yeah, that was my fault.
Okay.
So-
Okay, so I take it off?
So we take it off.
Yeah, you can take.
You sure?
Well,
Okay, it's off.
If something comes up.
Then you
I'll
can just
ask
let me
to
know.
Put it on the agenda, yeah.
Okay, economic development, Robert, you and I?
And then what I'm still trying to do is I got a meeting with Sonoma County Tourism, Visit Mendocino County, and myself as River Coast Visitor Center. And that's on March 18th, so we're trying to find a way forward to see how Mendocino County will participate. Sonoma County Tourism has committed or will commit to some funding, and provided that Mendocino County, well, Visit Mendocino County will. So I'll know more after our March 18th meeting. And I'm still trying to put together a business plan. Then I run up against an issue with myself being a minority owner at Fort Walala, and then trying to get that visitor center going again. That was really doing well there for many, many years. So I'll try to get it as far as I can before I maybe have to back out or something. I don't know. I love to see that service offered again for the community, the greater community, but, we'll see. I'll do whatever work I can still, on getting a plan together based upon what we had going there before, and, see how you guys feel, and, take it from there.
One question on the Sonoma and Mendo County funding, is that approved by the board or is that by the visitors?
Sonoma County Tourism, I think, ran it by their board of supervisors already,
Okay,
and I believe Visit Mendocino County has to run it through. I'm not sure, so many organizations, but maybe their own committee within Visit Mendocino County, or maybe the sort of supervisors too, to get the $5,000.
okay, would that come out of the county's budget or out of Visit Mendocino's budget?
Well, whatever Mendocino County has appropriated for Visit Mendocino County, I
Okay.
would think it comes out of that, and it's not much, to
Yeah.
my knowledge.
I'm just piggybacking what Don said earlier, is that the county's broke, so. I guess I paraphrased, huh? Okay, thank you, Robert, for that.
Sure.
10.7, website, social media, telecommunications, and community broadband access. I'm not sure who that committee was.
Mostly done.
Mostly Don? Okay.
It's done.
Okay.
Yay, Don.
Okay, I've been working on, the new website. It's not ready to go live yet. Unfortunately, this past month I had to deal with some health issues, but that's all cleared up. And some other projects that I was involved in, so. And I've run into a couple of technical issues in terms of how I really want the website to work in terms of posting either the meeting information, agenda, and any other documents and news and the archives and stuff like that. I want to get that so it's really easy. Because right now with our old website, it's a little convoluted the way it has to be done, and I'm tired of it working that way. So I want to put extra time into this so that it's much easier and quicker to add information to the website. So the homepage here, it's a little different from the last time, but it looks similar. I've added these buttons right here for sort of ongoing either projects or local issues that we're working on. So we've got Streetscape here. In this case, we just go to Caltrans. Caltrans site. Although this site is not totally updated, but at least it's got some general information about Streetscape. And Bauer Park, I've got nothing. I don't know the Bauer Park. Is there a website for Bauer Park?
There is.
Is there?
There is.
Okay.
Yeah.
If somebody
I
can,
worked for it.
if somebody can send me that would be great. On the community center, just go to the community center here, this page.
Okay.
And
We'll
coastal,
get you some stuff to update that.
yeah, that'd be good. Coastal plan, we go to the GRI website, and they have a page based on local coastal plan.
That's good. It's better to point at GRI, frankly, because the county has been taking down their LCP update page. It's up and down, and right now I think it's down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could add one or two other buttons right here. If we, want to. So this pretty much same as what it was. It just added RCLC down here, as well as Friends of the Guala River, for the organizations that are really involved in work protecting or restoring the habitat of the Guala River. So in meetings, yeah, this has to be, I need to deal with this. This is where I really want it to be easy.
Mhm.
News, again, there's nothing here yet, but this maybe is going to be a simple format in terms of just a headline and then text about, what news item maybe, but that's a post, so there'll be multiple news items, you know, with their own posting date, that kind of thing. Gualala, we still have that there, and I do need content, so if any of you guys maybe want to share some content with me, that'd be great. Here's the local coastal plan page and that page.
Okay.
Government, I don't have too much more than I had last time there. Actually, planning and building services, I don't think we need a separate page for them. Nor the planning commission, I think I'll just include those items under here. Resources. That's the same as it was last time. We could add more stuff then. We'll move this down. Climate, there's nothing more. Visitors, I put the image gallery under visitors. And we could, you know, of course, add more images. And I was thinking also of having images. These are mostly Gualala area images, but we could also have sort of Mendonoma images, you know, so stretching from Sea Ranch up to Point Arena, or even a little further, you know, for visitors who are coming into this area. And then I've done some work here, so this is just a general, this is a statement right here that is on the Mendocino County website about GMAC and what we're supposed to be doing. And then contact information. I will also put there's your email here, Kevin. I don't know if you really want that.
That's fine, because
It
I
is fine?
I had some lady already email me about a street light that's out.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'll also put
What are you doing sitting here?
I'll also put an email contact for webmaster.
Okay.
So that I can get emails if somebody's complaining about the site, or they think or they find something, a link that doesn't work anymore, whatever, they can inform me. Members, I've got the members in here now.
Just as long as we don't have pictures.
There's no pictures, no
The county
pictures.
requires that.
And I've got the application webpage down here, so it goes to it's been removed. That's interesting. It worked earlier today. I'll have to figure out what happened there. The territory map is still there. And I provided a website guide. You know, to describe how navigation works and the buttons, because every access to a page in the website somewhere else, or, you know, to an external website, is gonna be done through just a button. And then the images, if you, I'll show you back here. Of course, if you you get full screen if you click on the image. That's kind of a nice feature. Anyway, this is where it's at now. Hopefully, in a month or two, we may be able to go live. Now, I do think we can go live without filling everything in, without all the content that we want to be there ultimately. We can say pages are under construction. The things we need working, of course, are, you know, our meeting page, archives, news, we want that working from the get-go. You know, the homepage, of course, that's pretty much there, but, you know, that can be modified too a little bit. All this about information that's important to have from the get-go. So, you know, as I say, we can go live without it being 100%. And I've noticed that with other websites. You know, you go to the website and the basic information is there, but you want some additional information that's not quite there. I think that's okay. Any comments?
Anybody have any comments? Dan?
Thank you. That was really good. I like the improvements that you've made so far.
Mhm.
Looks nice. Visual is spectacular.
Thank you.
Dave?
Right on.
Henry? Robert?
Under, coast fire, what did you have there? Fire districts?
This fire under fire district, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
would you have all 3 fire districts or no?
You mean Cal Fire?
No, I'm thinking about, we're the South Coast Fire District, right? That's our jurisdiction, but then you've got Redwood Coast, and then you got the Sea Ranch. I'm just thinking, you know, because we are in a. I was just wondering if that was going to expand into all 3 or no?
No, but, we could mention the additional fire districts, certainly. If not there, but then this is the one that's in.
Oh, it says
Hawaii.
it in the picture, by the way, doesn't it? In the picture, it says South Coast Fire District, or does it? I can't see it.
It does say South Coast Fire. I just, there's not enough space.
Yeah.
Right there above the image.
So the idea is,
Unless I went, I could fit it in if I needed to.
I was just wondering if you were gonna specify South Coast Fire District or like bring in the other fire districts, North and South Coast.
We could certainly,
curious.
but, people around here, if they need to call the fire, well, there's a fire, you call 911.
Right.
Everybody should know that.
Right.
You don't necessarily call the, fire,
So,
department building itself, right?
right, so Forest Coast Fire District encompasses all 3, I guess, huh? Not just the one in our jurisdiction.
Just,
Well-
5 up, just everybody knows.
so it seems like this particular list right here, this is stuff within the GMAC geography. There are other agencies that are outside of the geography. Perhaps those agencies, I think you have a resource area
Right,
someplace
right.
else where other agencies like Sonoma County Regional Parks, which
Exactly,
provides
yeah,
service, but it's not in our GMAC jurisdiction.
right, regional
Maybe that's
parks,
the way to do it.
yeah, regional parks and some other places that visitors come, or even locals go there.
Sure.
That's gonna be on the visitors.
So your plan is to link to those, right?
There'll be a link, yeah, there's
Okay.
a webpage for the, regional park.
I see.
Yeah, I just have to, add that to the webpage.
Okay,
It's cool,
We-
nice job.
we've got a
That's
couple
great.
minutes left.
Yeah.
Dan, we've got 2 invoices that we need to pay.
2 things came through this month. Dave, you should have got paid for the PO box.
I did,
You did?
yeah,
Okay,
along
good.
with my ballots, I did them both early and often, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, voter looking off.
Yeah.
Don submitted a payment that he made in 2022 to Network Solutions for our website, our domain name. And I sent it through and Danielle Fitz over there said, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And like 3 weeks later, she came back to me and said, oh, this is 2022. I said, yeah, I told you that. So we need to vote or here to approve paying the 2022 bill out of the current year's budget because last year's and the year before's budget
Right.
are no longer extant. So
Okay, so is that a motion?
that I would move that we approve the auditor controller pay Don for his expenditure in 2022 for domain name registration,
In the amount of,
$137.91.
okay, we have a motion. Do we hear a second?
Uh,
Second by Robert.
Point of order, is that,
It's not
Yeah.
in action.
yeah, it's,
That's why it was made an action item on the agenda.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's listed, it's not really spelled out.
Right.
I'm not, I will defer, but I'm not convinced that this is actually in order for this meeting. My hunch is it would be better, to agendize it as a specific action, but, I could be wrong on that. Anybody else have an opinion on that?
The strict construction is you are correct.
But as
Fine.
far as,
So it should spell it out.
What I can do is, sorry about the delay. I can bring it back as an action item under old business next month.
Sorry, Don.
No, that's okay, I mean, it's not like I need the money today.
It's only been since 2022.
Yeah, I mean, however it happens. I
So
mean,
what,
I'm sorry I didn't submit it in 2022, I can't remember why I didn't.
Okay.
But this is for 10 years, because that was the cheapest rate.
Right.
And we saved some money.
It's a good deal.
Well, it's better not to have to be reminded every year to renew this, because if you forget, then your website goes off.
So can I request that you send me the title, just the title,
Certainly.
and I'll put it in as an action item next month.
Okay.
Sorry. to be annoying.
No, it's not a problem.
That's fine.
I had wondered if we needed to do something like that, so.
Well, we knew we had to act on it, so, okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Henry.
So motion, right?
So motion's gone because of,
Nobody seconded.
yeah,
Well,
lack of
it's
second.
not in order, so.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay, any items from the council members? Okay, I have one March 26th, if you're not doing anything exciting. Supervisor McGordy and Supervisor Williams are hosting a planning, building and environmental health workshop. 1 p.m. at the county offices, or you can Zoom on it.
One more time, Kevin?
March 26th, 1 o'clock.
It's my wife's birthday and she might actually want to do that.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Kevin, one more
I
time.
will send you all a reminder on that.
3/26, 1 p.m. Board of Supervisors workshop on planning and building services.
Planning, building.
Planning, building and environmental health workshop. Hosted by both supervisors.
This
Which
is
district
William
is,
McGordy.
Grady?
McGordy is 2, I think.
Yeah, I think it's two.
Yeah, he's the east side of 101,
Hopland.
as opposed to, never mind. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? To the April 4th meeting? We have a motion to adjourn.
So April 4th.
I second.
Second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. If we could get a little help to clean up our mess here. I would appreciate it.
Just send it back to me. That one that we just talked about, your figure.